Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another action-packed episode of the Super Show. It's your favourite, well, maybe your favourite, hopefully your favourite, weekly gaming podcast. It's full of hot takes and trash opinions, and here, this week, to provide hopefully plenty of both, I'm your host, Jamie, and joining me, I've got a man that, by the looks of his face, has already given up on Movember, Mr. Alex Jones. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, just
You're looking
just
pretty
shaved.
clean. And another man who, by the look of his face, has already given up on No Nut November. It's Mr. Chris J. How you doing, buddy?
Can I just do a factual correction here, editorial correction? It's not that I've given up on No Nut November, it's just that I've given up on life. So,
Okay, that doesn't really tell us, though. Like, have you been coming? You don't have to answer that question if you don't want to.
Pleading the fifth. You know when you said it's your like blah 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 blah. I thought you were gonna go. It's your boy J-Mo.
It's your boy.
It's your boy J-Mo. Welcome to the Super Show podcast.
Never say never, right?
You just reminded me because I had a random suggested tweet from someone today, and it was about No Nut November. I think it was Nico Lol, you know, the boomer girl,
Right.
Of
and
course.
it was like saying something about like Happy No Nut November. I suddenly just tried to find it because I was like, what? But she did it. I think it was attached to a bit of a thotty picture, and I was like, is she trying to ruin it already for people?
Did she
Did
did she flash a tit?
No, of course
then-
not. I think
then
she
what's
just
the
does. She just looks because she's attractive. She just looks, and she's like, now the simps are gonna blow their nuts, and it's only the 4th.
But do that many people really do it?
No, not November. I don't think people really do it.
I struggle to believe it's that much of a thing as well.
It's one of those things that it's just memeified, isn't it? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what's not going to happen if my wife suggests we hop on the good foot and do the bad thing. We say, sorry, darlings, no, not November. You've got to wait another 25 days.
No, that's when you slap a bitch. You go, get off me.
Wow.
Get off me.
I thought the whole
Nope.
point of marriage was that every month becomes No Nut Month. That's all.
No, that's only like year 15 plus. So
A year
I'm
15.
right.
Okay.
I'm
You
all right for
celebrate
another few
that
years yet.
15-year anniversary, and then it's cobweb season.
Yeah, cobwebs.
Jesus.
Okay, great. Well, you know what? We have a not particularly big, but a somewhat broad audience from all around the world of all shapes and
audience.
sizes.
Okay.
Audience, yeah, specifically audience. And so I'm actually curious now whether or not they are partaking in No Nut November. And that's not a gender-specific thing, because females don't often refer to it as nutting, but I like to think, in the grand scheme of things, that it's nutting in its own way, right?
Where did that saying? What's a nut? Does an
Damn.
acorn? Does an
Well,
acorn
no,
come
we've
out
got-
of your shaft? Or
I
like-
reckon it's because we've got nuts, as men we've got nuts, and so we bust a nut, and eventually it just became nutting.
Bust a nut. Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, maybe.
Busting that. Right.
What I was going to say, though, is I want to know whether or not you at home are partaking in No Nut November, or
Yeah.
whether or not you actually think it's a real thing.
Tell us
Genuinely curious.
Tell us if you've busted a nut or not.
Well, you don't have to get that specific. We're not asking for the grim details, okay? We don't need to know, like, when you lost. Just a general thing, your general feelings on No Nut November. And if you want to chime in and let us know, you can do so on YouTube or on Twitter at SuperShow Pod. If you are watching us on YouTube, get involved in the comment section down below. That said, there is no shame whatsoever in listening to the audio version of this podcast, which you can do so on all major podcasting platforms.
Buddy, it's doing better numbers than we're getting on YouTube. Say that
It is.
much.
I actually
People
looked
like
at
to
our,
listen, not to see us. They don't want to see our little faces.
Can you blame them?
No.
Do you know
Not
what?
at all.
I did a little bit of research, and unfortunately, the research would have created an interesting topic of conversation, and I completely forgot the end result of said research. But I went on the platform.
Glad you
that
brought
we
it up
use.
then.
Well, no, because I'm going to set. Here's what the great thing about the internet, Chris. I'll set it up. I'll open up another tab. I'll redo the research and find it out. But I was
Okay.
curious. Basically, we have a platform, if you will, that takes the audio version of our podcast and sends it out to the good folks all around the world. And I wondered, we often talk about Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts, which is the de facto fourth choice podcasting platform for our listeners around the world. Can either of you take a guess? Ignoring the quote unquote other apps section.
Oh yeah.
So what are the big three? Google Podcasts, Amazon,
Google
not
Podcasts,
Amazon,
Apple, and Spotify.
Sorry, Apple, Spotify.
Amazon Music is not particularly high. 0.5% of our monthly listeners are on Amazon.
To be fair, that was the latest one that we've joined in. I would say it's probably like it'd be like iHeartRadio or Stitcher. I'd imagine it would be Stitcher.
Stitcher has 1%. There are two though that battle
or above it,
slightly higher level. I'm not sure if I've even heard of either of them. Pocket Casts with 2.4%, and with 1.8%, it's Podcast Addict.
Wow. Oh, I've never heard of either of them. So.
Yeah, me neither. Although, again, with the size of our audience, that could literally just be one person.
All right. Well, hello to our listeners on Pocket Cast.
But hold on,
and
you're doing us a dirty there because
what was the other one? Pocket Cast and
Podcast Addict.
Podcast Addict. Hello to the audience.
It's also worth noting, Chris, you mentioned Stitcher. The exact same amount of people that listen to us via Stitcher are also the exact same amount of our audience based in Belarus.
Belarus, that's cool.
Yeah,
I do like it when I get to look at those stats and you can see people from all over the world.
Well, I will tell you that we are on Apple Podcasts. We are the 180th most popular video game podcast in Ireland.
Yes. In fact, Dublin is regularly the third biggest city we are in across all platforms.
You know, one that gets a lot of traction for us is Denmark. We are currently at number 81 at Denmark.
So I haven't been to Denmark and I haven't been to Ireland, and I'd like to rectify both of those things. Two places I'd like to go.
Can either of you guess the single biggest American city we are in?
Philadelphia.
It's not Philadelphia.
Nah.
It is almost double New York and Chicago, weirdly enough. But it's not Philadelphia.
It's not going to be California, right?
It's not.
That
It's
seems
California.
Delaware.
It's not in California. It is a big state, but it's not on the coast.
Texas, baby.
You're onto something. Which city
Austin.
though? No, not
Austin.
quite.
I don't know any of the
It is
cities in
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. Yeah.
Leading the front.
Nice. That's cool.
London is the only single city bigger than Houston, Texas when it comes to our listeners.
Well, there you go.
And
that's really cool, man.
You can count yourself amongst them. As I said, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and as we just learned, a whole bunch of other platforms as well. And you can also listen to us on Paisley Radio, over on paisleyradio.com. That broadcasts out at Thursdays at 10 p.m. I don't know which metric you contribute to by listening to it that way. I presume it's like the Glasgow metric. So if you want to bump Glasgow up the charts and topple Houston once and for all, that link once again is paisleyradio.com. Shall we launch straight into a bit of news? Should we just start talking about video games on this video game podcast?
I think we should do it.
I mean, if that's what you guys want to do, it's a democracy manifest. So.
Look, Chris, you don't seem that keen. You don't seem that enthused. You don't seem that motivated. So might I dangle a carrot in front of you?
Oh, a carrot. Yes.
A carrot.
Yes, please. Carrots are good. You can dangle carrots in front of my face for sure.
A Japanese Soulsborne inspired carrot that may or may not pique your interest in talking about video games, because today I think, other than a trailer a couple of months ago, we got our first real extended look at gameplay for the much anticipated Elden Ring.
Hell yeah, bro.
About time too. So, because it's coming out in February.
Yeah, because it was delayed, right? It was meant to come out end of January, I think like January 22nd, and now it's moved to February 22nd?
I think you're right. It was basically almost exactly a month, almost to the day, I think.
Yeah. Or near as close can be.
Yeah.
I mean,
not a bad delay, really, by the standards that we're going to maybe talk about some other games.
Yeah, but hold on. Yeah, exactly. But hold on. You say that because there have been other times that there's been a delay. Like, what was it? Battlefield, where it's like, oh yeah, Battlefield's delayed by a month, and you guys are like, well, what can you do in a month? Why are they delaying it in a month?
No, but the difference there was like people had played Battlefield and said this game is broken, and then you're like, well, it's got 3 months to fix it. The difference with Elden Ring is no one's played it, no one's told us that it's a broken game. They've just delayed it, so it could be for like marketing purposes. It could be for like just moving the when the release date is. It could be for a load of different things.
Well, Jonesy, in less than 2 weeks' time, people would have played it, and I don't know if they're going to be allowed to stream it, but we'll definitely get some reporting on it because they're going to have the network test, which It doesn't seem like I made the cut, fellas, and I'm
sucks.
I'm at war with Japan now officially. So
I was gonna say the first triggering thing about Elden Ring, but I won't.
What? Oh God, here we go.
This is going to be fun. Let's get into it then, because today.
Hold on, can we just prep people for this? Because I don't want like trigger warnings and shit. Like we need to prepare people for the fact that Jonesy is going to be contrary to anything that we say positive about this game. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Not at all, mate.
Yes, you are.
You know what? I'm going to give the big man the benefit of the doubt. I think he's going to be measured and reasonable, and as always, and he's going to leave the devil's advocate role at the door. Am I right, Jonesy?
You are. Thank you, Jamie.
There we go. See, do you know what?
Wow.
I see people for their true colours. I see through the thin veil that people used to present themselves with, and see them for who they really are. And Chris,
that I appreciate it.
Yeah. What's this veil telling you, buddy?
Well, see, when I look into your eyes and I look through that veil. Do you know what I see?
Tell me.
I see a man who has a lot of love for FromSoftware game design, who had time for the Dark Souls games, who picked Sekiro as his game of the year that year, but said, you know what? These games are missing. If they were, for the sake of argument, just to embrace a little bit of that open world goodness, if they borrowed some of the ideas from the design philosophies of, let's say, a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, we may.
Oh, you mean another game of the year from yours truly?
Another one of Chris J's game of the year. Then they may.
It's almost as if I've got good taste in games,
something.
right?
Almost. Imagine that. Who would have thought? Now we just need to get some. What was that game called? Shogun Tactics or something?
Shadow Tactics.
Shadow Tactics. Get some Shadow Tactics in there.
Yeah.
And a bit of Fallout 4 maybe. But no. So today, we finally saw 15 minutes of large chunks of almost uncut gameplay that showed off that open world, and like we said, Chris, some of those Breath of the Wild inspired decisions. What were your first impressions?
I mean, it looked cool. Like I think when it started off, it was very much like, oh, okay, yeah, it's Dark Souls, and I think I mentioned it in like the WhatsApp group that we have, that like, okay, we always knew it was Dark Souls meets open world. Right, and like that was from the word go, like, hey, that's what it is. But this gameplay just really kind of fucking struck me how Breath of the Wildish everything kind of seemed. Like we like to bandy about terms like emergent gameplay and stuff like that. But there was a lot more of this than I was kind of expecting in this kind of a game. So you had scenes where like your character's the tarnished. That's what you're kind of playing as, a tarnished whatever the fuck that means. It means
he successfully completed No Nut November.
Yes, yes, and he is tarnished. Just kind of like riding a horse, kind of like the open world. That's all fine. Like that's what you come to expect. And then he kind of like just on his horse rides past a fucking like a carriage. That's moving on the way, being pulled by these dudes with like spikes through their chest.
Yes.
But they were almost just kind of like minding their own business, and you were minding your own business. And that's something that I didn't kind of expect. And then he was kind of like exploring a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, guess what? Out of fucking nowhere, a fucking dragon comes down and then just enters into this massive boss fight. So I don't know if there's like an event that triggered that dragon, or if the dragon was just flying by in that moment, saw you and said, a tasty little morsel. Because if it's like that, then that's fucking insanely cool,
right? And that's kind of what it looked like. Because I'm totally with you, especially when you made that point about the carriage being pulled along by those weird giant sort of like hunchback trolls almost. We're so used to seeing FromSoftware's trademark enemy design and character design specifically, and all those nasty, gangly creatures they create in specific places to be encountered in specific ways. And when you just kind of see them like wandering about, almost ignoring you, like there's something that you almost have to do a double take. You're like, hang on a second, this really is a Miyazaki open world in a way that I hadn't really anticipated.
Yeah, there was another like section where your tarnished character is kind of like on the top of a cliff almost, and looking down at this kind of like some ruins, or like an encampment, as it were. And there was a carriage there that was just kind of like stopped. It's like, the narrator was like, there's treasure in that carriage. And there's just like people like guarding the area, patrolling the area with like flames, holding up torches and whatever. And it's just kind of like, oh, so they showed you like, okay, you could just craft like sleeping arrows And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird, like sleeping arrows in a fucking Souls game. And then goes down, fucking shoots the dude with a sleeping arrow, and then goes and fucking like shoves a massive sword through his chest. And I was like, okay, there's the Dark Souls, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
But just that whole setup was like really kind of like, I don't know, it's weird, right? Because obviously Souls games are highly authored. You go into an area, everything is kind of like a chess piece. It's there for a reason in the way it is. The person is looking in the way that it's blah, blah, blah. The parts are, the patrol parts are set in a specific way for you to kind of tackle it. Like, I especially noticed that when I was playing Sekiro, there's a specific level in the Hirata estate where everything is kind of timed. And that's when I realized that Dark Souls games are like actually like rhythm games.
Okay.
Right. Not just in the combat, but in how you need to tackle things. It's like, if I kill this dude first and then go to kill this dude, and if I stealth kill that dude and then jump onto the roof and kill that dude, then I can clear the area in the most efficient kind of way. That kind of thing. So it's interesting to see how they're trying to instill that in an open world, but not make it seem like completely forced. Because let's be honest, what they could have done is said, hey, all these areas that we make in Dark Souls games, let's just have those, but then just have a road connecting them. Like
exactly.
a la Rage 2. But it's not.
Yeah,
but it's not like that. It's not like that at all. And like, it's. I was hyped for this game before, but yeah, this gameplay just kind of like fucking solidified it for me. Man.
That's the thing. I'm glad you kind of connected the dots there and sort of like talked on just not just the open world design decisions they've made, but how that leads to that traditional FromSoftware encounter design. And that's where, Jonesy, I kind of want to pick your brain, because the other day, for whatever reason, I had a bit of a flashback and started listening to podcasts that we recorded about a year ago, and the PlayStation 5 had just launched, and you were playing a little game by the name of Demon Souls, and you were sharing your... Let's be honest, some of your frustrations, not necessarily grievances, but frustrations.
That's fair,
with
right?
that game.
That's
absolutely,
games.
And totally. But what I want to know is, as someone who wrestled with that this time last year, and when you see Elden Ring, and you can say, okay, that's cool, that's new, that's interesting, that's different. Oh wait, now that's Dark Souls. How does that make you feel? Or is that even the right way of looking at it?
It is. No, it is the right way to look at it. Like, full disclosure, just in case anyone doesn't know, I played Demon Souls and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was I say I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it from like certain aspects, like the technicality of it, the design, the levels, the enemies, the fighting, like all of that stuff was wicked. And I loved the look and when you encounter some things like the dragons and stuff. And it was my first time with Demon Souls. First sort of real go at sitting down and just working through a FromSoft game, really. And I found a lot to appreciate. And so I'm not going to take anything away from, because I'm not talking about the games, but just I don't enjoy the loop in those games. Like, I didn't find that I really got anything when I actually defeated like a boss. The repetition and the doing it again, and I didn't feel that kind of exhalation that you get from like overcoming something. It just felt like, it almost made me think like, oh, now I've got to do it all again with another boss. I think I did about 3 bosses in Demon Souls, and I sort of gave up, and I haven't really gone back to it since. Now, we often talk about like, oh, if you wished for a game to be different, you're just kind of wishing for a different game. And one thing that did jump out at me when I watched this preview was they're doing all the things that I loved about Demon Souls. Like, the game looks fantastic. The open world seems to be much more interesting than having sort of like the fixed level design of like a Demon Souls. It still gave me a weird Dark Soul. Was it Dark Souls 2 that we played and we did some streamed on ATG?
Right.
No, we recorded a Let's Play and then it got corrupted. And so it never saw the light of day.
We also did a challenge in it, didn't we? Where our hands were sellotaped to the controller or something.
Or we were wearing oven gloves.
Blindfolded, or was it oven gloves?
I can't remember. I think it was oven gloves, yeah.
But there's one thing that... and like it's not really my game, so I'm not trying to take anything away from the devs, but those games to me feel like devoid of life in a lot of ways. They feel like they're very well built, very well designed, and as you guys were saying, they have like these specific paths and tracks and points where you can interact with enemies. But apart from those, there's not a lot going on. And that's my biggest gripe with these games, is that unless you get into a bit where you're supposed to fight some enemies, they just kind of feel a bit empty and a bit dead. And weirdly, I thought it was nowhere near as bad in Demon Souls, which is strange to me why it felt worse in Dark Souls 2 or whatever. Maybe it's because we didn't get far enough into the game.
But I think thematically, that's what Dark Souls is, right? It's a game where it's a game world where life is essentially kind of like the cycle of life is coming to an end, and everyone's kind of like will is broken, and
right.
So I do get what you mean by the criticism, and I don't disagree, but it is also worth remembering that is the thematic kind of thing behind Dark Souls.
Sure, but with an open world, and with, like, as Jamie was saying about Chris, I think you were saying about the potentiality of like having things happen to you in the environment that you're not expecting, like the dragon suddenly comes down and attacks you, and you see some guys and you can go and steal the gold. And someone, I think in our WhatsApp group earlier, said it's almost a little bit Assassin's Creedy maybe in some of those sorts of aspects. That to me is moving in definitely the right direction for a Soulsborne game. Like for me as a player to want to have more to do, like to get into that world. I still think there's too much of it still seems very FromSoft, which if you like FromSoft, that's amazing. Like, you're going to love it. But I don't know, it didn't seem to have moved that far away from where it's been before, I suppose. It's very, even Demon Souls, it looks very similar to the PlayStation 5 Demon Souls that I played like last year, which is kind of odd for me. I thought that it would have come a lot further along than that in like look.
It's interesting.
How it looks like might feel. Some of the stuff looked like it could have just been a DLC for that Demon Souls game, which was kind of odd. Not obviously the open world, but when talking about when you get to like around the castles and the keeps and some of the stuff where he was walking around and chopping enemies. I was surprised. I was surprised at
that. I think when there was melee focused combat that they were showing in this preview, I think it was natural there were links there. But I think that it had to have been intentional, right? That when you first encountered that dragon, which is the first sort of large scale opponent that we face off against in that preview, they make a specific point of saying, hey, look, here's us engaging that boss while remaining on our mount, for example, and slashing while being on the mount. Here's us engaging in sort of ranged combat that seems far more detailed and sort of like multifunctional and multifaceted than it ever has been in a FromSoftware game before. So it did feel like they tried to hit a few of those notes in terms of saying, hey, even in combat terms, here's some different looks that we have considered, while embracing this sort of open world philosophy for our traditional combat style. I thought that was cool, and
how do you think that will hit the fans?
I mean, Chris is the person to ask, right? Like, Chris, you are a fan. Like, were you bothered by like a mount-based combat or ranged combat stuff? Or
no, not really. I think
so. You get fucked with the purity.
Would you think it would detract from the idea of like, oh, I've got to time my roll, I've got to dodge, I've got to do, like, if you can do some stuff from distance, if you can use more range attacks and
interesting,
different ways.
Can every boss be cheesed by riding around them in circles?
Exactly.
But I mean,
the back.
What you're forgetting
sleeper error.
Most bosses in Dark Souls can be cheesed anyway, in some way, form, or another. But I think you need to kind of give FromSoft like some credit when it comes to designing their systems. Like, obviously they've done a good enough job to fucking have their systems leach into every kind of facet of gaming lately. It's like, here's a Star Wars game, it's it's inspired by Dark Souls, they're clearly onto something there. And when I see all of that stuff, like the mounts or the different ranged effects or the different spells or the summons of those ethereal creatures, etc. All it makes me think of is just giving you more options in how to tackle certain things, and I don't think that's a bad thing whatsoever. There's, like, what you'll find with good games usually, and it's still to be said whether this will be a good game. Let's be honest, like any game in a post cyberpunk world can be bad, objectively or subjectively. But what you tend to find with like good games that kind of resonate with people is that the options allow you to do things that kind of, to sound like really fucking lame about it, but like take your breath away. Like, oh fuck, I didn't know I could do that. Like, people are still fucking learning from Breath of the Wild that like they can do crazy shit with the systems in that game. And it seems like we're going to get a similar-ish kind of thing, maybe not to that extent of like the actual engine behind Breath of the Wild and their physics engine, whatever. Was called Alchemy Engine, etc. But yeah, no, I think more options the better, and more customization, and it's kind of like skewing it more towards what these games are trying to be properly, which is role-playing games. You're not going to play a role-playing game and be like, yeah, you can only use a sword. Sorry, fuck off.
Yeah,
For sure, yeah.
And like looking at sort of what some of the rest of the preview had to offer, just in case anyone listening hadn't seen it for themselves, we're not just kind of using Breath of the Wild as a throwaway term because it's a a cultural touchstone for open world design. There were elements in here where Elden Ring will have a map, which I think is a first for FromSoft games. I'm not 100% sure. But,
Sekiro had a map, but it wasn't. It was a shit. Didn't really help at all.
Okay, this seems like a sort of a pretty damn functional open world map. You can put down sort of markers, and those markers will be represented in the world, so you can, and of course it's got that Breath of the Wild style element of like custom markers that you're making yourself to kind of remind yourself of where certain things are. We saw some of what you were talking about, Chris, in terms of that freedom of choice in how you approach certain areas. We saw a castle that the player tries to approach from the front, only to be hit with a sort of a big wave of arrows from some unseen enemy, and so they say to themselves, right, well, I'm going to kind of go around the edge then, and there's this great shot of the character kind of crouch walking around the fringe, this very thin ledge of a castle. A little bit of that FromSoft jank that you look at and you're like,
his one
you don't
leg
look
was
like you
off
should be
the
up
ledge,
there. Yeah, exactly. It looks like you're doing a speedrunning trick, but obviously they're using it themselves to kind of to promote this idea of like, no, look, this is open world games in the 21st century now. Like, if you get there, if you get to that boss, if you get to that treasure, if you get to the end of that dungeon or that castle, like, doesn't matter how you get there, we're just going to give you the tools and let you figure that out yourself. That stuff I think is really neat, and it's what gives games a longevity and a sense of replayability that I think will really hopefully strike a chord with the audience for Elden Ring. Also, perhaps striking a chord, we sometimes see a lot of writing in FromSoft games in terms of lore and world building. Not always a lot of like active writing, but when there is sort of like dialogue, it's usually you meeting some strange, sullen, quiet, crying character, like some knight that had just lost a battle, so he's sitting in the corner crying, saying, "I don't really want to talk to you right now." And if you read the wiki, you find out that if you killed him, you're going to get the bad ending 62 hours later. We got a snapshot of something like that in the form of Alexander, who appeared to be a giant pot with arms and legs that was stuck in the ground and was requesting your help. Now, obviously, we haven't seen the full game, so I don't know, like, are there lots of Alexander-style things or is that like an example of a side mission, or is that Emergent? We don't know. But it almost gave me, like, Red Dead 2 vibes of, like, it's not quite suck the venom out of my leg, but it's not far off, right?
Yeah, like, people could have the playthrough where they never run across Alexander Potman at all.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Shit like that's cool. And like,
I think maybe you're being a little bit too generous.
Maybe.
You think that's just like a thing that's there and it's scripted, and if you go there, it happens. And
yeah, I think the idea that you're going to play this game and you're going to have a Red Dead Redemption 2 style, like riding across a bridge, guys jump out and they're going to stick you. I don't think you're going to get that sort of thing. I think you'll get some of the stuff like the where you see some guys with a caravan and you approach them and you get to a certain point and then a dragon flies in. Like, I think you'll get like the idea of emergent gameplay that will feel really cool and something they've not really done in the same way before in an open world. But I think if you think you're going to explore this landscape and you're going to have these regular emergent things popping up and happening, I could obviously be very wrong, but I would be surprised.
That's fair enough. No, I don't disagree. I think more just like it's seeing that FromSoftware style applied to something that you just walked up to and could have walked away from or around. That's kind of fascinating. Fascinating. Sorry, Jonesy.
I was going to say that's one thing that the one thing that worries me about the little preview is does their way of making games and the way that they because they almost have they have like. You follow a path in a normal FromSoft game. You go from A to B. There are ways that you can branch off the path and you can have different interactions on might not be exactly the same way that someone else does it. And then you get a shortcut and then you can like go through that area again. You can do whatever. They have like a very curated level design. And the only thing that worries me is with an open world and being used to doing that curated level design, are those two things going to not quite work, and whereby you kind of look at the trailer or this preview and you think, oh, that's going to look wicked, I'm going to play it just like this. It's almost like when they show you a Call of Duty clip and you've got people on their headsets being like, Delta Team, I'm moving up to like Foxtrot Bing, and you're like, no one plays it like this. Like in reality,
like the division, the first division thing that they had,
right?
They're like, oh
yes,
call over the friend who's playing on his tablet and he can control the fucking drone. Okay, cool. Oh, I got bogeys on my left. It's like, okay, fuck off.
I get some...
The reality is more like, just hold on, guys. I need to get some more Mountain Dew. Just
cover
Whose fan is pointing at the mic? Turn your fan off.
Exactly. Your mum shouting to take the rubbish out like halfway through.
Yeah.
But there's a little part of me that worries that in this, it's going to almost feel like some weird, very pretty Pokemon game where you have to like run across in front of the character in just the right way to trigger the scene to like where the interaction happens. And it's going to kind of not feel emergent and open world. And it's going to kind of feel weird. Like it's going to feel too big. It's going to be too big to house the elements that a FromSoft game are usually really good at, which is that's the one concern I have, I think.
Jonesy, you know what? Anything is possible, right? Like this is their first stab at an open world, and just because they are masters of their craft and what they've been doing doesn't mean that they can necessarily crack this. I'm hopeful, obviously, and from what I saw, I think that they would have nailed it. It does seem.
I'd be surprised, right?
They're
I'd
hitting
be
the right
surprised
notes,
if they did.
but
they've had long enough.
But there is a possibility, is what I'm saying. There is always a possibility.
Yeah. Although one thing that could smooth over the cracks if they do make any missteps is something that they put a bit more of an emphasis on in this preview than I thought they would, even though it was a feature that was already well established and announced, which is co-op. Obviously, Soulsborne fans are familiar at this stage with things like summons and invasions that are both returning, but this we saw a player 2 enter the game, if you will, and they stuck around with the player character for a considerable amount of time. They explored together, they stealthed through a forest together, and they even fought a boss together. That's another thing, Chris. Like, is that something that treads on the toes a little bit of that Soulsborne purity? Or is that something that's just cool?
I think that's been building for a long time, and there's still a big question mark on how they're implementing it. It might just be exactly the same system as they had in Bloodborne, in which case, fine, fair play. I do hope it's more fleshed out. Like, I would love, and is it just one additional player? Can you have multiple for co-op? I don't know.
Good question. I don't know.
Well, they had that in Demon. Well, they had the you could have a person come in and play with you in Demon Souls, like, didn't they? Where they could.
You've always been able to like, have people like come into your game but they've never really. I could be wrong. I don't think they ever really advertised it and marketed it as a full-on like co-op experience.
Yeah,
right.
It's always meant to be a thing where someone kind of like comes into your game as some sort of like otherworldly spirit almost.
Yeah.
And helps you and then leaves.
Which
I had a guy help me through an entire level of Demon Souls. Literally come in at the very beginning, took me through the entire level, helped me fight the boss, and did absolutely everything with me, and was like, "Cheers, mate, see you later." But in silence, of course, which was weird.
Well, this is and they didn't show anything about like any kind of communication other than emotes and like, the character
the
waving.
One guy. The guy who almost dabs in front of that sort of strange mirage wall that you have to hit. Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, sure.
That's cool. I like that. I think that's as a new person to sort of FromSoft games. I love that feature. I love that you could have people that can come and give you a bit of a hand if you're struggling.
That's cool. But what I'd really hope from this is that they really think and flesh out the co-op thing. Because what I would ultimately love to do is start this game and get you guys involved and kind of like try and get you into it. And the easiest way would be like, the easiest thing would be like, jump into the world and let's fucking go ham.
Because you couldn't do that, right? You couldn't actually like get your mates into the game with you to do some proper multiplayer like that. So that, I suppose, would be a big difference. Would be you can get your mate into.
I mean, unless I'm wrong, like I haven't had much experience with the co-op side of things, so maybe that is the thing that's fleshed out. Or I don't think.
I don't think we're that far off the pace, and I think the fact that the preview build that people were trying to get a chance to play early, that we mentioned earlier, Chris, is called the network test.
Yeah, right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, lots of games online nowadays are single player but always online or have some server connectivity elements, but to run a network test, it suggests you are trying to push the boat out a little bit in that kind of feature set, right?
Yeah. It would be interesting. I wonder if like people are gonna hate this, and I like me saying it, I'm slightly cringing myself. But like, think about Fallout 76, where it's like, oh yeah, it's like a world that other people can come into, but it's just like a limited amount of people.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And I think that could work quite well for a game like this. I really do.
I hope that they don't lose the. I didn't see in the preview. Maybe I just missed it. The notes, where people like scroll things.
Yeah,
on
they
the
didn't,
phone.
they didn't show
yeah.
any of them.
No,
No,
which
they didn't.
which I didn't think they did, which I really liked as a new player. Like I found those really useful. Except of course where someone says there's gold down here and you jump off a ledge and then it's like no gold, you just die. But no, when that actually worked, I thought that's not something I've seen in other games that I really did like. Where it would say be wary ahead, or it would say stuff like that. I thought that was a very cool thing to. So I hope that they sort of keep that.
Yeah, I got a question for you fellas.
Yeah.
Like after the video and the gameplay, they were obviously like, hey, you can pre-order and you can buy all these like fucking deluxe editions and blah blah blah. But clearly they are solid enough in saying that like, hey, this is coming out in February 22nd.
Yes.
Are you guys like, I'm in? Are you guys in?
No, not at this point. No.
I'm half in, half out. And the reason I am half out is not because of anything the game is necessarily doing, but it's because of the other point you made, which is when you said the words February 22nd.
Yeah. It's fucking
unfortunately,
stacked.
yeah, February is also the month of, off the top of my head, Horizon Forbidden West, Saints Row, Dying Light 2, the Destiny expansion, Sifu. There's a lot of games coming out in February, a lot of games I want to play, a lot of games that will be 70 fucking great British pounds. So that's tough.
That's another thing. Console versions of Elden Ring, £10 cheaper than the PC version.
Than the PC version?
Yeah, PC version is the most expensive.
That's bizarre.
Other than, like,
That's-
say, like the collectors or whatever. It's mad.
That's very odd indeed. I'm not sure what that's all about.
Yeah, but anyway, that's
I'm with Jamie. It's nothing the game's done. It's a me thing. Like if you ask me the question, like, do you want to play Horizon? Do you want to play Elden Ring? I'm like, there's no question. Like, there's an open world that I want to explore, and it's not the open world of Elden Ring. Like, it looks pretty, but it can stay looking pretty, and I'll play it down the line. Like, if I really need that fix, I've got multiple levels of Demon Souls.
That's fair.
Still to get through, which
True.
is PlayStation 5. Like, looks fantastic, plays really well. So
Jamie's thrown his in the bin.
No, I was double checking it's still there. It's there and it's sealed.
It's definitely a day one for me, and I'm actually having a bit of a crisis mode here, fellas. A bit of a hot panic, as it were.
What about?
What's the panic?
Well, because I've been streaming Dark Souls, and I only play Dark Souls on stream. That's why it's taken me fucking forever to finish, because I don't actually play it in between streams.
Convenient excuse, yeah. Okay.
It is convenient, all right? It is. But when this comes out, obviously, I'm not necessarily going to want to do that because it's too much game, fellas, right? So, I just don't know how to kind of like tackle it.
I think you should hit it hard, man. Like stream it when you want, hit it hard. I don't think you can only keep it to streaming. I think that would be doing yourself and the game a disservice. Probably.
Exactly right. Exactly. Oh, I'm looking forward to it so much. Like, it's funny. You said those games off the top of your head, Jamie, and I'm not a Horizon fan. So that doesn't really interest me. I don't have a PS5 anyway, so fuck me. Sifu definitely is one that I'm going to be picking up, but that's very much kind of could be a palate cleanser game in between, like Elden Ring.
It also it won't be full priced, right?
Yeah, well, you'd assume so. So yeah, like I'm on board.
No, for sure. And I'm looking forward to February for that reason. No matter what we're playing, we're going to be playing something plenty to talk about. And if you would like to help ease the burden of all those ridiculously hefty price tags, then one of the ways you could do so is by heading over to our Patreon. That link is patreon.com/SuperShow. And for anyone wondering whether or not that was a joke, I can assure you it entirely is. We have far too many bills and mortgages and rent payments due to be spending your hard-earned cash on video games for our pleasure. Trust me. It keeps a roof over our heads.
Yeah, literally. When we say it keeps the lights on, not just for recording, like for every day. And it's getting into winter, fellas. So I'm glad I got a little bit of Patreon money to come and keep the heating on.
Yes. So if you want to keep frostbite at the door this winter for Chris and his family, patreon.com/SuperShow. You can sign up and pledge whatever you see fit. Any donation, big or small, is very much appreciated. If you sign up at the $2 tier, for example, you can join in on our Discord and get in with the conversations there. With a $5 tier, where you gain access to, all the Patreon exclusive content that we've made, not just recently, but over the years that SuperShow has been running. And we also would like to give some very special shout outs to all the people who continue to support us as we endeavour to keep bringing you our great content. And those people are Aim Nestus, Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Jesper Camdell Nilsson, Leo Merger, Magic Grits, Nathan Pears, part of the 0.24%, if you know, you know, Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kid, Zach Cream, and the big dogs, the head honchos, Brett Z, Doppler, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Bookread, Manuel Guerrero, and Peaswad. Thank you all very much for all your love and affection, I guess.
Legends.
Yeah,
Legends
thank you, guys.
of the Fall.
Sure, I mean, is it fall? Is it what the
It
Americans
is fall.
call fall now?
It is fall now, so yeah.
So they
Okay,
are
there you
literally
go.
Legends of the Fall. There you go.
You are all Legends of the Fall. Another Legend of the Fall, Chris.
Yes. Sorry. What's that?
You said is you. Say what you were going to say.
Thank you. Hey, big man. I was just going to say that, if you do join up, our Patreon bot is broken at the moment. So if you have signed up and you haven't gotten a code yet, or you haven't been able to access it, just message me and I'll get you sorted out. And also, fellas, someone asked when we're going to do the next known murderer.
Oh,
And
soon.
Yeah, we've got to do it soon. And we've also been we've come up with an idea for some more content on the Patreon. Hopefully, we'll be going up very shortly, in the next couple of weeks for sure. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled like onions,
Yeah, for sure.
you know.
And like I said, the nice thing about that $5 tier on Patreon for the Patreon exclusive content is it's all cumulative. It's not like you have to sign up and wait for something to drop or sign up when something drops. Anything we've released is sort of there indefinitely.
It's there,
all
baby.
those links are always available, and so
You
can
guys
catch
were
up on
meant. You guys
anything
are meant to
missed.
do a James Bond spoiler cast.
I mean, Jonesy asked me if I wanted to do one. I said yes, but we got to do it soon, and I never heard from him again.
No, yeah, I haven't had a chance to get around to doing it. I had a pretty busy
And-
week in the end work-wise, but hopefully very soon we'll be able to
I
record that.
I was about to rain on your parade and say I think we've already missed the boat. You already
It's still
waited
out.
7 weeks to see it. I saw
Still
that
out.
film. I can barely remember what happened in that film. I saw it so long ago.
Wikipedia.
Maybe we won't bother then.
When you said it's still out, you sounded like David Brent saying you can still find them when someone criticises the size of the heels on his shoe. You can still find them.
Well, it was good. It was good though. I should have put that in.
Did you
yeah.
enjoy it?
I did. I'm gonna talk about it in my catch up a little bit.
Well, Chris is going to talk about a movie, so you can talk about a movie as well. And
Nice.
also, we didn't discuss James Bond at the time because I was the only one who'd seen it. But before I ask you guys what you've been up to this week, what you've been playing, what you've been watching, how about a comment of the week?
Lovely.
Love it. Yeah.
Lovely. This one comes in from Paige, who says, Jamie and Josie's heated debates while Chris sits in silence with a smirk always cracks me up. Blimey, I sense some sexual tension there. Me too, Paige. It's palpable.
Definitely.
Even over Discord. I usually side with Jonesy, as it sometimes seems Jamie gets caught up on semantics. Fair. Although Jamie seems more knowledgeable with his arguments, for sure. I like Paige. Wow.
That's true. It's true.
Whereas
I'm not
Jonesy is
gonna
just
argue
trying
that.
to. Jonesy is just trying to offer his opinions in a chill way. Chill, not the word that comes to my mind, Paige, but to each their own. But Jonesy, you did annoy me with. You did annoy me with your Breath of the Wild comments today. The fact that you couldn't remember a slime and said maybe you didn't get that far in the game. That would be saying, nah, I'm not a fan of the original Super Mario Bros. Huh? What's a Goomba? A walking mushroom? Oh, I don't think I made it that far in the game. 1-1 is how far you'd have to make it to see a Goomba,
Wow.
Jonesy. So a Paige kind of put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
All right. To be fair, let me clarify for Paige. Of course, I remembered the slimy things in Breath of the Wild, but I knew what Jamie was trying to do with his his Guardians of the Galaxy reference, and I wasn't going to make it easy for him because, of course, he was trying to tie a line between those two and say there are slimy things in both games, and you like Guardians of the Galaxy, you don't like. But No, and I absolutely did remember him. But I make that as a point whenever I argue with Jamie. I don't make it easy for him. I like to make him work for it.
Like to see him squirm.
Yeah, I like to see him squirm a little bit.
Yeah, is that tied to the sexual tension that Paige consents? Your desire to see me squirm?
Probably, yeah. I would have thought so. You know, it's always better when you squirm in a bit.
Oh, okay, wow. Yeah, you went there. Talk about slimes.
As the other points, like Jamie does know more about me than games in general and about the industry in general. So I always have to rely on other things than actual knowledge.
Well, it's because Jonesy knows more than me when it comes to every other topic and subject in the world other than video games. So when we argue about video games, I have to try and, as you say, Paige, get caught up in semantics and try and find loopholes to ruin arguments and drag them out for hours.
Yeah, there is a small element of I don't know. I could try to think of a good word for it, like argutainment, that I know we both like to play around with when we do have our little heated debates. So yeah, it's all in good humour.
Like is a strong word, but
I was going to say, as much as argutainment sounds like a good word for it, I've got a feeling that whenever Chris sits back in his chair and puts his hands behind his head, he wishes he was doing just about anything else. For example, Chris, maybe playing video games. Have you managed to find any time to do that specific task?
First of all, calm down, Lana Del Rey. Yes. I did actually find time to play some video games. I did play some more Dota. Nothing more to say about that. They got a new character, so it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
A carry / support, which is quite nice.
So it's like me on this podcast.
Not really. Not really, buddy. But yeah, been slowly working my way back into Dota 2. Obviously playing some more Dark Souls. Beat Seath the Scaleless on one of the most frustrating streams that I've had in a very long time, because it was like a 2.5 hour stream, and I think in terms of like total game progression, I maybe went forward about 30 minutes.
Yikes!
Yeah, it was just like
brutal.
It's bad. It was bad. It was not good. But
Twitch.tv/Hot Panic.
Hey, you know it, buddy.
That's FromSoft for you, and hey, there's a new game coming out in February. So
and I'm the fucking idiot that can't wait.
yeah.
But the idea is like finish up Dark Souls. Like I'm nearing the end game now. Okay, like it's getting to the end of Dark Souls. So I think I've got like 2 or 3 more. Someone's probably going to correct me, but like, actually, you got like fucking 50 more bosses to kill. But I'm getting towards the end of it, and I want to finish that, and then potentially I want to go back and finish Sekiro, because I'm on the final boss in Sekiro.
Nice.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. All before Elden Ring comes out, and I think it's completely doable.
Imagine if you managed to organize some kind of like FromSoft or like some kind of Soulsborne stream week where it was like Monday complete Dark Souls, Wednesday complete Sekiro, Friday first stream of Elden Ring.
That would be quality, but I am not confident in my skills in order to do that. I say that though, but each time I set out to kill a boss in a stream, I pretty much do. Takes me the whole stream, but like I do it. Like, I set off to kill Ornstein and Smo. I fucking struggled through it. It's what I like to call on the stream failing forward.
I like it.
All right, that's my USP, buddy. If you want to see someone failing forward, but like I set out to kill Ornstein and Smo, I kill Ornstein and Smo. I set out to kill Gravelord Nito, I kill Gravelord Nito. I set out to kill Seath the Scaleless, I kill Seath the Scaleless. Like I do manage it somehow, so why not?
I'm gonna coin another new word. Luminac is what Chris is. He's a lunatic and a maniac.
Luminac.
Because if he thinks that he can, you've got, by my count, you've got maybe 12 weeks before Elden Ring comes out or something like that. Maybe like 14.
December, early January, early February.
Yeah.
3 months and 3 weeks
to finish Dark Souls and to finish off the last boss in Sekiro. Only playing
Jonesy,
on stream.
all I got to do is get one more Lord Vessel, and then
with
I can
Christmas
go
and New
Gwyn.
Year's.
Yeah.
Never.
Never. I'm going to step in and say that's more than enough time for Chris here. Not
it isn't.
To put pressure on him, but if you manage to get some kind of schedule carved out between now and the end of the year,
which I haven't been able to so far.
Well, you know,
I know. I think that's a tall order. Like I'm not saying this about. I'm not saying about you, Chris. I'm saying that's a tall order. Like I think that is a lot. Like you didn't not finish the boss in Sekiro because it was really easy and was quick to do. Like it's gonna...
No. I'll tell you exactly why I didn't finish the boss in Sekiro, because I was streaming it. Okay. But the monitor I have doesn't have a headphone jack, right? So I had to have the headphones going in through the Elgato, and there was a audio delay. I know this sounds like a fucking
right. No, I remember actually.
Yeah,
now you
I know it sounds like a pathetic excuse, but like hearing audio cues is quite helpful when you're dealing with FromSoft bosses.
Yes, sure,
and like you got to imagine that like the end boss of a game is like taking everything that you've learned and fucking throwing it and the kitchen sink at you, and it was just too much of a tall order. Also, I was completely out of practice on Sekiro, which is going to be the same thing when I go back in. But you know, I do have a new monitor, so that circumvents that issue. I think I think I can manage it. Maybe.
The end of Jan is going to be exciting because you're going to be like
I'll be sweating.
manically trying to finish it off.
I will say that Sekiro
I've
is
got
the
my
cherry
fingers
on,
crossed for you.
Yeah, Sekiro is the cherry on top. I will definitely aim, and I'm confident that I will finish Dark Souls before then. I have to be, right? Like it's got to be like.
Yeah, I have faith in you, Chris.
If you can, to be fair, if you can tuck Dark Souls away by the end of this year, and then you've only got to sort out Sekiro by before it comes out February 22nd, then yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I've not got as much confidence in you, but you can do it.
Wow, thanks, Jonesy. But you know what the issue is, that what this the picture that this paints, okay, is we spend one evening a week doing the podcast recording. And I stream once a week. I try to stream minimum once a week. Okay. And then if that's dedicated to Dark Souls, which it has been, it doesn't give me much time during the week with my other responsibilities to play much else. So that's why it comes to these catch-ups. It's like, what did you play? It's like, well, I played some Dark Souls and I played some Dota. So boom, you know, I need to get better at kind of like getting in my variants of these kinds of things.
Speaking of which,
I do have one more thing to talk about, because I did manage to go to the cinema. The first time since Tenet, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay, decent.
I believe. Yeah, so really good to be back in the cinema. I really fucking liked it. Although, as we're in the cinema, I was like, there's a lot of fucking people here. And there's ventilation's not great. And I just heard someone cough at the back. Probably just an itchy throat. But there was a point in the film where I was like getting a little bit like, maybe this was not a smart idea. But hey, I'm glad I did it. I watched Dune.
Nice.
Yeah.
Been meaning to see it myself. Have yet to. But I am intrigued.
It's really good. It's really good. I'm a sci-fi nerd, a sci-fi geek, and yet I don't like reading books. So I've never read Dune. Obviously, I know kind of the broad strokes of the story, etc. From playing Dune 2000, the real-time strategy game by Westwood Studios. That was really good. But so I get the broad strokes of the story. It was really cool. It's done really well. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Denis Villeneuve. And I will say that, like, even though it's available on HBO Max for our American brethren and sisters, I don't know what the sister thing of brethren is.
Sisterina.
Sistemers. That even though you can watch it on HBO Max, try and go watch it in the cinema. It's like, it's one of those movies that you kind of need to take in that grandeur, that spectacle. Like, fuck it, if you can go to an IMAX, go to an IMAX and watch it. Like, it's good, man. It's good.
Did it leave you feeling that, damn, I can't believe that they've set this up for a second movie and they haven't even started filming it yet? Or do you feel patient?
I'm not gonna lie, it is a bit disappointing. You'd hope that they can fast track it.
Is it that bad in like the way that it ends or something that it makes it feel like it really needs?
Well, they've split the novel in half, right?
Oh,
they've set out to make a two-parter.
Yeah, I think they might potentially make it into a 3-parter. I've heard rumors, but
damn!
But Denis Villeneuve's like
Hobbit vibes.
But Denis Villeneuve's original plan was actually to film both parts back to back, and Warner Brothers said like, no, we're not taking that risk. Fuck you. You know,
Yeah.
like you're an auteur for sure, but no.
It's literally called Dune Part 1. Okay, I just looked it up.
Yeah, well, I think that's now because they've greenlit Part 2, like
Right.
as of like 5 days ago or something like that.
Yeah. Literally, it just had to come out, and they were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, part 2."
Yeah, no, but like it's not that it ends on a cliffhanger, but it ends on. It's hard to kind of say without any kind of spoilers. It ends in a way that's like there is a logical gap in which to say like, yeah, that's an end.
Right.
And it doesn't end on like a cliff. It's not like, oh, there's a knife to someone's throat and then like fucking cut to black, you know? It doesn't pull the Matrix Resurrections thing of like the fucking Agent Smith real world facsimile like opens his eyes on the ship and then, you know, Matrix will return next year, bitches.
Although those films did film back to back and did release in the same year.
Yes.
Which helped.
Yeah. Yeah, it did help. But yeah, I am a bit disappointed, but not overly so. Maybe because I just don't have such an attachment to the source material. You know.
Right.
But it was good, man. It was really good. And it's interesting. I was watching this film and I'm like, so the world building and the lore is very kind of complex. And it deals with it in a decent way. Like nothing's too difficult to understand. But when it comes to the actual kind of like beats of the story, I came away from it thinking like, fuck, it's incredible that like the film is on one hand so complex with its world building and its lore, and on the other hand with its beats, it's very straightforward. Like it's very like very easy to follow kind of what happens in the story from a beat perspective of like, oh, this happens, and then they go there, and then this happens, and then they go there.
That's interesting.
It's not very much like a back and forth. Like, it's no Christopher Nolan kind of like fucking with time and shit like that, right? Where, and the fucking fancy editing where it goes forward and then it goes back in time and this, that, the other. Some of that, but not like overly complex. It's
and I wonder if that's another area where not having read the book helps, or the books, I guess, but the book specifically.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what is not included, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know what they've had to skip to see it, but you know what? Like that fucking it worked for me with Lord of the Rings because I never read those fucking books.
No, but I always remember that one of the only exposures to Dune that I'd ever had, because I have not read the book and I have not seen the David Lynch film either, but I have seen the documentary. Hodorowski's Dune,
right?
Which is about Antonio Hodorowski's attempt to make develop and a film based on Dune prior to David Lynch's version, and at one point in pre-production, the script was so long it would have resulted in a 14-hour film.
Good Lord,
I love that.
So that was always the image of Dune that I had in my head, and I was like, you know, Denis can do it. You know, he somehow made a Blade Runner sequel.
Yeah,
so
which
go for it.
You know, I also highly rate. And I mean the Dune movie, it's 2.5 hours, and it didn't feel 2.5 hours. I will say that I was enjoying kind of every minute of it, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, it's over now. Okay.
One of the I haven't seen it, but the criticisms I've heard leveled at it is that people who want to like it will love it because they kind of have to, and because it's a very well directed film and it looks very pretty, but it's one that you kind of once you're invested, you have to say you like, and then the other other side of
what does that even mean? I don't
as in
that.
Like let's say like a game was coming out.
He's calling you a hipster.
No, not even a hipster. Like more like when I think we talked about last week. Like when I'm really looking forward to a game and it comes out, and I'm like, yeah, it's great. Even though like other people are like, oh, I don't think it was that great. Do you know what I mean? You get invested in an idea of something rather than the reality of something. I've heard a lot of people level that criticism at it, and then saying that if you're not invested in it and you see it, you'll kind of be like, oh, that was a film that happened.
I don't know.
Did you get any of that vibe, or was it just a solid sci-fi that looked good? And
I didn't, but it does remind me of one thing, and that is when Zack Snyder's Watchmen came out. Okay,
right.
I really loved his kind of take on it in the film. Obviously, they changed the ending quite drastically from the graphic novel. I had read the graphic novel and was a fan of it before the film came out, but going into it, and it's kind of weird because it's almost the opposite with Dune for me. But going into Watchmen, I knew what to expect. I knew it's not a superhero movie.
Right.
Right? And going into that with that expectation, I saw with a bunch of my friends from high school. But they, like, I think they were going into it expecting a superhero movie, like a Marvel movie, right?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, okay.
And if you go with that mindset, like, you're going to be disappointed in it. But then again, if you're hearing the buzz around it, maybe you try and force yourself. So I can kind of understand the perspective, but I didn't feel it with Watchmen. And I didn't feel it with this, even though I'm coming in from the other perspective of, I guess I knew what to expect from the film, but I don't know what the story was.
Right.
Right? Except for the broad strokes. Like, yeah, there's fucking sandworms, and Paul Atreides is like the fucking heir apparent and the fucking, the Messiah.
Fear is the mind killer.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I didn't really know much about the Bene Gesserit and all of that shit other than from the game.
I believe it's pronounced Benedict Cumberbatch. Actually.
Yes, that's
a fair attempt.
Yes, come on, my snatch. That's right. Yeah. But I knew what kind of a movie I was getting myself into.
Right.
And I think if you think that you're going in there for this like Star Wars kind of thing, you're going to be very disappointed.
See, I'm expecting Blade Runner. And do you know what? I didn't really like Blade Runner.
The original or 2049?
2049.
I liked it, man. I thought it was fucking sick.
There was lots of silence.
I thought it was a very good movie.
I thought there was lots of standing around and appreciating the DOP and how good it looked, and a lot of quiet Ryan Gosling.
It's Roger Deakins, dude.
Yeah, it's going to say, if you're hiring Roger Deakins, of course you stand around and admire his work. The best way to watch the film Prisoners is on mute because of Roger Deakins.
Which is a damning indictment of a film. Like, if that's what Dune is like, then, I think to watch it is on mute.
It's a Denis Villeneuve film. Like, that is what you're going to get. Like, it's not very far removed. Like, if you think of a Sicario, Sicario's got action in it, but it's not like an action movie.
Right, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm going to see. I want to see it, so I was,
that's Sicario. I know what you mean in saying Sicario is not, strictly speaking, an action movie.
Yeah.
Sicario, God. Do you remember they made a second one of those? I saw that at the cinema.
Soldado or some shit. I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't him. It wasn't Denis Villeneuve. It was...
No, it wasn't. It was not. But they did bring back Benicio del Toro's character.
Shooting the gun like this.
Yeah, puts his finger in there.
Oh,
goes,
the shittest way to shoot a gun.
One of the coolest ways to do it. Well, Jonesy, did you play anything or watch anything this week that gave you better ways or cooler ideas of how to shoot guns? Perhaps you could point a gun towards the screen and put your arm out like this.
I did indeed. Yes. I finally saw the new Bond film, as we alluded to earlier, and I will not talk much about it because I don't want to spoil it for people. Just safe to say, I thought it was really good, especially after the debacle that was Spectre. I think it sort of did. It was weird. It didn't do everything I hoped for from a Bond movie. I am a lover of like the old school Bond movies, like Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton and all those guys. I don't get me wrong. I am a fan of Sean Connery, but like I think after his era was like when it started to get a bit wacky, and I quite like that. Like not when it went insane, but like I like some of the.
This is your way of saying you're a Sheriff J.W. Pepper fan.
I am indeed. So it wasn't like that level of Bond. It was still a gritty, grounded Bond. It was very cool. The story was good. I enjoyed it. It didn't hit on every note. There was, there's definitely some stuff that I found a little strange in certain parts that they decided to do in certain areas, and it just, a spoiler cast would be good, but
try and record it next week.
You never know.
You never know.
It's content. Hey, it's free real estate. Can I ask you guys a question, seeing as you've both seen it and I haven't?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I obviously, as I mentioned in previous podcasts, I love Casino Royale. I think it's my favorite Bond film ever. And with each other like Daniel Craig film, I've disliked for various reasons. And I hated Spectre. Where does this kind of fall on the scale of like fucking S tier for me, Casino Royale, and dog shit tier Spectre? Like where does it align?
So he's done 4, I guess, right? Daniel Craig's
Casino
done
Royale,
five now.
Quantum of Solace, yeah.
Skyfall, Spectre,
Spectre, and this, yeah.
I would say for me, this is number 2. So Casino Royale would be my number 1. This would be my number 2. Then it would be Skyfall, then Quantum of Solace, and then Spectre probably. Yeah.
I think maybe Skyfall can just nudge ahead of this potentially, but not based on much.
Yeah.
I think this film benefits again, like without really saying too much. It benefits from circumstance in that it's given a lot of emotional heft by virtue of the story beats it gets to present.
Right. Yeah.
That if you stripped it,
Right,
but just because of what the film is and what it signifies, and if you took those away from it and how we react to them as opposed to how they play out, and look at the components as a Bond film, you look at the Bond villain, you look at the Bond threat, the plot, some of those elements. I think it is it's ropey enough to slip beneath Skyfall, but still ahead of Quantum and Spectre.
Yeah, I think I agree with Jamie. Though what was probably the things I don't want to say too much about. That I'm saying there's some beats when you're like, or there's some ideas and they kind of miss. But for me, I think the reason I'd put Skyfall lower down is purely because when it goes all Home Alone, I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Same.
I didn't like that.
I really liked Skyfall.
There's like 2 different films in one, right?
I like Skyfall, but when it goes Home Alone, I'm like, okay, I'm out. Not out. Like I'm like,
it doesn't even do it for that long.
Like, it doesn't. But it made the tone of the film.
Yeah, it's such a tonal shift, dude.
Yeah, but think about like that scene afterwards, like when they're still on the Skyfall estate but move away from the house, like in the water and all the stuff with M and like all that stuff is so well shot.
That gets
and
better,
another Roger Deakins joint. What can I say? Put it on mute and you're laughing.
I like that. Put it on mute. Yeah.
Did you play anything this week, Jonesy, though?
I did. I'll briefly mention Guardians of the Galaxy. I've been playing more of that. And I came off last week, and I think people might have got the impression that I was a bit more lukewarm on Guardians of the Galaxy than I really was, because I think I leveled quite a few criticisms at it, but that is a really cool game, and I'm still really enjoying it. And what that does well, that game, I still really like. So the feel of the Guardians, the way that it rolls, that it tells that story and it takes you on a bit of a journey like through that universe is very, very cool. And yeah, still been thoroughly enjoying that. And the humor's great. Like I love the interaction ways you can sort of. I've had a few more experiences where I can sort of, if you fail a little, sort of like dialogue section, for example, like and you can get different outcomes, and I really do like that, because you feel like you're involved in the comic and you're sort of pushing it along.
I almost feel like I can think of one sequence in particular that you might be referring to, because it provided some of my favorite lines of dialogue that I've heard so far.
Okay, yeah, well maybe, yeah, we'll have to check after. But
Jonesy,
I have played.
Sorry, have you come to grips with the huddle yet? Or are you still failing them? Was that you?
That was Jamie. Yeah, it was Jamie.
I've got better at it. Do you know what it was? I realized, because basically what happened is the next time I played it after that podcast and after that recording, I failed again, and I was like, I'm clearly an idiot. Like, what am I not getting? And I think what I had done is I'd assumed it was too all-encompassing. I assumed that there was this whole sort of like broad range of emotions they could be feeling, and you're trying to tap into different things, when really, like, what you have to remind yourself is that those huddles are binary. The Guardians are either motivated and just need you to refocus them, or they're scared and they need you to motivate them. It's one of those two states, and you just need to figure out which one it is, and then it gets pretty simple. So after I got that out of my system, I've played a good sort of handful of hours more. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through the game in terms of the volume of number of chapters. I'm on chapter 11 or something like that. And I don't really think I've failed since. It's starting. I mean, I will say though that I know you've got more to talk about, Jonesy. I'll just quickly say I am in the part of those stories that every single sort of like comic book story or just like blockbuster story in general seems to have, which is the point where the cracks begin to form, and then the separations begin, and then the thing that kind of brings them back together and starts to glue them together stronger than they were before. I'm in the midst of all of that happening.
Do you know
and that's usually the stuff I don't like. What's the term for that?
Vacuum. You've entered the vacuum.
Right. I've entered the vacuum. There you go. So I feel like I'm in the vacuum a little bit at the moment, and I'm like, okay, I'm just waiting for all of these guys to become friends again. I get it.
I hated the intro to the vacuum, or the entry to the vacuum. I hated when they suddenly all split up and they're like, and you lose. It felt so forced. Like I didn't even realize why it happened.
Yeah. Well, because there's a character in that game who is consistently hot-headed in his behavior and just decides this one arbitrary time he's going to take this one thing and use it as a reason to go away and do it. It's like it didn't really track.
No, it was.
I don't know.
I'm trying to think. What it was it was something, another game I played recently where it's like so bizarre, and you think like, what the fuck? Like that was such an overreaction. I can't even think of what it was. I don't know. Anyway, so the only other thing I played anyway was going to mention was Gas Station Simulator. I pulled the trigger. Jamie and I were talking about this last week, and I'd said that I'd seen it a couple of times, and I was really like wanting to buy it just as a little an aside game to waste some time and stuff.
Can I tell you a secret?
You got it as well.
Yeah.
Nice. That's so funny. And I've played it for a few hours, and it's cool. And I've painted my little gas station. I've been filling up cars, and I've been fixing them and tidying things away. And it's a good, fun little game. So,
do you know what sold me on it, Jonesy? I don't know if it's the same for you, because I watched a stream of it prior. It was the second I saw that when you've got a customer who comes up to the till, you get behind the checkout and you click to drag items across the scanner and then drop them in the basket.
Yes.
And if you put an item in the basket without scanning it, they essentially get it for free because you haven't scanned it.
They do.
And you have to buy all your items. You have to go to a wholesaler and buy inventory, and your inventory gets put in your warehouse, and you bring things from your warehouse into your shelves.
Have you guys heard of this game? Like, it's reminded me now. And there's a recommendation I was going to give to you, Jamie, but I've actually forgotten. There's a game, and I think it's out on Game Pass as well, but it's called Unpacking.
I've seen it. I nearly bought it.
I think it's on Game Pass.
I'm not. I'll have to double check. I thought I didn't see it on there when I was on there the other day.
Well, for those,
but yes,
for the listeners,
up my street for sure.
It's literally just a game where you unpack boxes and like place them in a room. The contents of the boxes. Hey, here's a box full of books. Put them on the bookshelf. That's a Jamie. That's a Jamie game, right?
I stand corrected, by the way. It is totally on Game Pass, which, considering Age of Empires came out this week, and Forza Horizon 5 is out next week, and then Halo like fucking 2 weeks after that. If you were going to get like a free month of Game Pass or something, now seems like a solid time to do it. Right?
By the way, I think that game can be completed in about 5 hours, so it's not like a huge time sink. If you were interested,
no. Well, the thing is, so I've got like a couple of things on the go at the moment. I'm still obviously trying to complete a couple of multiplayer titles whenever we have the time. Like we did all play some Back 4 Blood this week.
Yeah,
for example.
Oh yeah,
which is still fun.
One of the other things I was going to mention, but
yeah. But then I'm kind of on top of things on the PlayStation side. But then as we record, Call of Duty Vanguard comes out tomorrow.
Yep.
And then, like I said, there's Forza and there's GTA next week, which is 3 games in one. So who knows? We're going to try and find time. But one game I did actually start and finish in the course of the last week that's also on Game Pass is a game called The Forgotten City.
The mod for Skyrim that got spun into its own game. Exactly,
right. So yeah, it was a mod for Skyrim that did really well, got around 3 million downloads. Actually won an award, a writing award in its native Australia, and as Chris said, has been spun out into its own project and is now on Game Pass after releasing to critical acclaim apparently earlier in the summer, which is what drew me in. Also because it came up a lot towards the late end of summer as like 12 Minutes came out and the Outer Wilds DLC came out, and everyone was talking about time loops.
Yep.
And The Forgotten City is a time loop game. And boys, I don't really know where to start because this is one of the most bizarre things I've ever experienced in my life, story-wise.
Okay.
Oh wow! Okay.
Well, you know the story comes from what was that show? The
Quantum Leap?
No.
Spartacus?
No, there was a movie. Fucking okay. Carry on. I'll look it up and I'll.
The thing is, I don't even really know where to start because. Fundamentally, like I thought that the premise, as it was written on paper, was very intriguing. And what I found as I continued to play this game
was explain the premise, right? Like, Some people
Do
might not
you know what? Can I do a thing where I tell you what they say the premise is, and I tell you what I experience the premise as?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, go for it.
Because again, like it's I'm not gonna say this was the biggest disconnect I've ever experienced between like
I like the way that he's struggling so much to just like even think about this game.
Okay,
He's obviously done
the Forgotten. They wrote that the Forgotten City is a murder. Excuse me, I didn't even mean to say that word. The Forgotten City is a mystery adventure game of exploration and deduction and a reimagining of blah 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 blah. Travel 2,000 times oh my god, I can't even get my words right when I'm reading. Travel 2,000 years into the past and relive the final days of a cursed Roman city where if one person sins, everyone dies. So let me tell you how that plays out. And let me stop me at any point if this sounds like just the most batshit crazy shit you've ever heard in your life. So the player character, you, are awake next to a riverbed, and some American woman is there talking to you, and she's like, "Oh my god, you've woken up! You were like drifting down the river unconscious." And her name is Karen, by the way.
Karen,
which the game like makes jokes about, and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to tell you my name. People make jokes about it."
That's funny. Yeah, I like that.
And so you have no memory of how you got there, or why you were drifting down a river, or what the fuck is going on. And Karen says to you, "Hey, look, just before you woke up, there was another guy, and he went into those ruins behind you, and I'm worried about him because he hasn't come out yet, and I want you to go and check on him, please." And because it's a video game, you say, "Yes, no problem, I will follow him." And you you descend into these ruins of an ancient Roman city, and you're surrounded as you walk through these crumbled down ruins by these golden statues of people that all look like they were somewhat panic-stricken or running away from something. And eventually, you find the body of the man who supposedly went in before you. He'd hanged himself, and he was also covered in head to toe in gold, like Goldfinger style. Except not paint, it's fucking physical gold. He leaves a suicide note being like, "Yeah, don't go through that portal over there. Like, it's trouble." So what do? You go through the portal and you find yourself transported back 2,000 years to a Roman city that is like lost to time, and it's a small knit, like close knit community of like I think it's 23 citizens in this Roman city. All of them arrived there 9 months before. None of them know how they got there or why they're there, but they're all just there living their lives. You're put in front of a guy called the Magistrate, who's the de facto leader of the city, and he introduces you to a thing called the Golden Rule, or what they assume is the Golden Rule, which is the principle that the many shall be punished for the sins of the one, i.e. if anyone in the city breaks the rules, everyone will be killed. And they take the fact that there are golden statues around their version of the city as well as the fact that that warning is written around everywhere, as that's their interpretation of why that rule exists. Because one, like the many shall be punished for the sins of the one, is like inscribed in the walls everywhere, and two, because there are golden statues everywhere, and presumably from previous eras. The issue is that the magistrate knows by the fact that your presence has come that someone is about to break the golden rule. And he knows this because the magistrate says that every time when someone breaks the golden rule, his plan is to go and create a time portal that will allow people from the future to travel back in time to that day, so that when they arrive, he knows that they've arrived because they've come back in time to warn him that the golden rule is about to be broken. Wow, so he asks you to now talk to these citizens of the city to try and deduce who is about to break the golden rule. The caveat to that is to help you in your quest to find out who's going to break the golden rule. You find out that you can all, as they say themselves, the game exists in a time loop, because when the golden rule is broken, in the game, as you're playing it, the magistrate in real time creates the time portal that you came through, and you then go through it after he's created it to come back in time to the same point that you did before, and you retain all your memories so you can continue searching. Right. And every time the magistrate's like, "Oh, okay, I know where you're here now." The other layer to it is that the reason you also want to do this is because if you could deduce who's going to break the golden rule and stop the golden rule from being broken, then he never would have made the portal. He never would have made the portal. It creates a what's paradox. It called? A paradox that will supposedly fling you back to the present.
Because you never go through the portal. But then, of course, if you never go through the portal, you never solve the crime, which means that the portal does get made, which means you do go back. So it is actually a proper paradox.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
just before we go into it, so the film that I was thinking of was Eric the Viking, which
Oh,
is
right,
which
wow.
is a Terry Gilliam, not a Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle film. And sorry, Terry Jones. Jesus, going through all the
Terry Jones.
Yeah, Terry Jones film where Eric the Viking goes to an island, and the island is like if a drop of blood hits the island, then the whole island will sink. So it's a similar thing, but adapted. But anyway,
Right.
carry on. Just in case
I was going to say,
interested.
the reason I intentionally went about explaining that game in such a long-winded, heavy-handed way is because I felt like there was a huge disconnect between the amount of heft and baggage attached to that premise compared to how the game actually plays out. Because once you've accepted all that and understood it all, and all of that plays out in like 20 to 30 minutes of this game, you then go about the part that's actually interesting and the part they presumably won an award for in the original version in the mod of Skyrim, which is you talk to these 23 citizens and you learn about their lives and their relationships to one another, and you explore what they're doing and how they might be helped or how they might hinder or help your progress through the game. You use the time loop element to kind of like use information you've learned in previous loops to kind of maybe manipulate people or use them to your advantage. And there are also interesting dynamics that the game does explore. For example, you might have wondered, or you might not have wondered, as the case may be, the golden rule is very ambiguous. Who determines what one of the golden rule is? Is it a law or is it a moral? And like, if it's a law, one of the things that the game does straight up explore is like, well, laws are different. The player character makes a point very early on, like slavery is not outlawed in your time, but it is in my time. So like what law are we talking about? And if it's morals, where do you draw the line? Because everyone has different morals, and it does explore that stuff. It even explores the idea that the golden rule is a fabricated or made up thing that politicians are using to keep people in line, and there is a rival politician who's running to be the new de facto leader of the city, and one of his key principles is that in kind of you have a conversation with him that it plays out in a very sort of like Trump-like way, and one of his key principles is that the golden rule is a complete fabrication that's used to keep people in line, and he just thinks people should have the freedom to make whatever choices they want to make. Or for example, there's a character in the game with severe like learning difficulties who the people are so worried about the fact that he might accidentally commit a crime, like accidentally steal him. They've imprisoned him before he's ever done the thing. And the game does start to explore like weird quandaries like that. Like how do you like what it like if in a society where everyone feels implored to not do anything wrong for the sake of their fellow man, where is the line between right and wrong, and what will people do and won't people do, and how much will they care? And that's where the meat of the game really is.
That sounds really interesting as a concept. It feels like an interesting way to deal with like philosophical ideas and like moral and ethical questions, and try and actually put it into a functional sort of game world.
I just felt like it suffocates a little bit under the science fiction heft of the premise itself.
Right, I see, yeah. Like in order to create the premise, you've got to do so much legwork to get to that point.
Yeah, totally.
And the idea of it.
And anyone... Sorry, I was just going to quickly say, no spoilers at all, but anyone hoping for a clean-cut ending that just kind of puts a bow in it, like, I can tell you that I laughed during one of the end. I saw 2 of the 4 endings in my playthrough, and I could not believe the quote-unquote canon ending. I could not believe what I was seeing. I could not believe
in a good way or a bad way, or do you not want to say?
I mean...
I don't think laugh is a good way, right?
I don't think the developers would have wanted me to laugh.
Right, okay.
It's got some genuinely fascinating ideas, but at some point it's also got to present them to the player. And
how long did it take you to finish?
I wonder if I will see on the X. I finished it in 2 sessions. It's not a mammoth game.
Yeah. Because when I heard about the premise and like, oh, you got to go and investigate and speak to this, and that, and then it's time loop, I'm just kind of like, I don't have time for it.
Well, that's the other thing, and like this isn't a criticism.
Chris wouldn't have time for it because he would just go to bed for like, he would just get in the first bed he sees and just have a sleep for a couple of hours.
You do it in one game.
My Xbox app says I've played it for 5 hours and 32 minutes.
Okay, that's not bad. And you said you saw 2 endings.
And I saw 2 endings, two of the 4 endings. And one of which was the full-blown canon ending that takes the longest to get.
My favourite version of the golden rule is he who has the gold makes the rules. I always think that's quite funny.
That's fair.
Yeah. But like, you asked me how long it took me, and I just said 5.5 hours there. I remember watching a review of someone who made a YouTube video saying that they thought this game was exquisite in their game of the year. And I remember specifically them saying it took them 15 hours. And I think if you spent 3 times as long as I did in this world with these characters, you'd probably get more out of it. But I also think that one of the things, for better or for worse, that the Forgotten City does is it kind of like, it uses its time loop mechanic to the benefit of the players as much as possible and never wants you to feel like, you know how in 12 minutes you would waste time? Yeah, it feels like the Forgotten City is so worried about players wasting time, it makes sure it never happens. Everything is forward progress in this game. And because of that, it's very easy to take the capital G gamers approach and just kind of blast through it. And I think I did kind of do that at times. One example of that is that there are side quests where you're trying to help people. So there's someone very early on who you need his help. You need to stop him doing something, and you don't know how to do it. And you find out from the doctor that he's got an illness, but no one. The only person who knows the cure for the illness is this other person who's going through their own thing. So you do the quest for that woman. You find out what the cure for the illness is. You go to the doctor. You confirm it. You get the ingredient from her. You go to the original guy. Say, "Hey, I found out the treatment for your illness. It's this. Here it is. Please stop doing this." And domino effect. You've done all the things, and you've got there, and you found anything. The game doesn't want you to have to do that every single time. So get this, there's an NPC who stands near the entrance to the time portal, and every single time you go back in time and start a new loop, you talk to him, you say, "Go to this man, give him this, and tell him to stop doing that." And he's like, "I don't really know who you are or why you're here, but I'll go and do all these things." And he completes all the side quests for you.
Right.
That sounds like, efficient. If a bit like very weird.
Utterly bizarre game, and if neither of you two mind spoilers, I would really like to tell you about some of the ending stuff.
Hey, I'm all for it. I loved your explanation of 12 minutes.
I mean, fucking hell, time loop games with fucked up endings. What this was a crazy year.
It's the Dark Souls of time loop games.
It is. Anyway, I spoke about that game for far too long. So how about we get on to some actual video game news?
Ooh,
let's do it.
Yes, please.
Well, boys, it was. It must be like financial season or something, because everyone was doing earnings calls and investors calls. Knock knock. Who's there? It's me, the investor. I want to know what's going on in your company. And as always, that was a big source of news for this week, and we start on that front at the HQ. Which presumably is still on fire, of Activision / Blizzard. Activision Blizzard AB. That's where it's all kicking off.
Yeah.
Chris, you look like you're about to say something.
No, I was just saying, like, it's funny because it does seem like a house on fire and a ship that's sinking at the same time. So, it's like,
so the waves will put out the fire. That's
but
good.
If you look at the top headline of the earnings call, it's neither of those things, apparently.
Well, actually, you never know, because when ships sink, the rats leave, and a couple of rats have jumped off Activision Blizzard's 2022 ship, presumably, in the form of 2 video games. We're talking about Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4. Arguably the 2 biggest games on the docket for Blizzard. We didn't know exactly when they were going to come out. We knew not to expect them this year, but this delay, Chris, suggests that perhaps we're waiting as deep as 2023 for these 2 heavy hitters?
Yeah, that's kind of what what was intimated. They didn't out and out say it's delayed to 2023. There were both games. Well, I think Diablo 4 was never given like an official kind of window, but Overwatch 2 was slated to come out next year. And Jason Schreier has kind of chimed in on it and says, don't expect to see any of these games in 2022.
Right.
The Overwatch 2 one is probably the more interesting one because obviously Overwatch League, which I've had to follow, is, it's happening next year. And there's been a big song and dance about, hey, it's happening on Overwatch 2.
Right.
And that's happening in I think the kickoff of the season is like in April or something. And
but that is still the case though, right? Like
yes,
the Overwatch 2 element.
Yes, nothing has changed from the perspective and from stuff that I've been heard and reported to me. They're going to be using a version of this is how fucked it is. They're going to be using a version of Overwatch 2's multiplayer, obviously because it's an Overwatch League esports, it's the multiplayer stuff of it. But does this if the multiplayer version is available, then just fucking release the multiplayer version and say the single player version will come at a later date. It's not like it's not fucking happening already with, say, Halo and whatever. Like, it's such a weird fucking thing that is happening.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe it. Obviously, because I've had to be invested in what is happening in Overwatch League. And it's just like, it just seems like, not just this, but the Diablo 4 stuff as well. Like, the Diablo 4 stuff, you can kind of understand, like, leadership changes, etc. And it's always been a game that's like, hey, we're in development. It's taking a long time. Whereas Overwatch 2 never kind of made sense to begin with, did it?
No, it's a strange pitch.
It was a strange pitch to begin with when Jeff Kaplan was still fucking there, working.
They kind of had to do it in some way, but it wasn't.
They didn't have to do it at all, Jonesy. It's I think games as a service. You just update it.
I don't know if that's true though. When you get down too far down that path, like at some point they're going to have to update. They're going to have to put out a new game.
Nah, the only reason that Overwatch 2 exists is because of Activision. Activision saying we want a sequel to this game that sold millions because we want to sell it to people again.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the only reason. It's not that they need to update systems, okay? I've fucking been playing Dota 2 for 12 years. You know what happened in the middle of those 12 years? They changed an engine, Jonesy. They went from Source 1 to Source 2. They changed the whole fucking engine on a free-to-play game because it's a game as a service. And what happens is you just say, hey guys, we're changing it. So here's the new one. There you go. It very easily, Overwatch 2 could have just been the next iteration of Overwatch.
I mean, I do still remember watching one of those Overwatch 2 streams that focused on how they were redesigning characters for Overwatch 2.
Right.
And I do remember thinking, God, these sure do look like characters that didn't need overhauling because they were designed to be timeless from the word go.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about all the principles of designing characters for that stuff, whether it's like silhouettes or balance and abilities. Like, they did all of that. And now, like,
but
why go back to that?
Not only that, they're showing off the new stuff. It's like, hey, guess what? What you've done is you've just released a skin.
Yeah.
Where do you get to the point at whereby you say, look, Overwatch has been out for however many years it's been out. We want to put out a new version, a more updated version with, like, I don't know, whatever it is, better base graphics, better but we don't really want to change anything in the game. Like, realistically, could they just do that in an update? Could they just say, hey, we've got a free-to-play game that if you're an original player, you can, like, I don't know.
Well,
it seems like cleaner
it's
that
not
they can
free
say.
to play. It's not free.
No. But what I'm saying is almost arguing that it is. If you're saying it's games as a service, they can do all the updates in the background. They don't need to get anyone to buy another game. You're kind of saying it's effectively like they've gone free to play and they've said, we're just going to give you everything for free as long as you keep pumping money into it. So I can kind of see why you'd want to get to a point where you delineate the first from the second. Like you said, they get a load of money from people buying the game again, and they get to like take advantage of some of the progress that's been made in the industry in the last couple of years. I don't agree necessarily with your the idea that they don't need to update the game because people play 10-year-old games that get updated.
No.
I don't think that's...
I'm so firm on this. They don't need to make another version just to update it in the way that they are planning to update it. What they do, you think they could just do it with like updates and patches and 100%.
Like
Look, okay, we don't know what the single player component is going to be. Where's this like massively PvE thing with different vignettes for the different characters, and I'm sure that takes a lot of work, but that could have definitely been spun into its own thing. But the multiplayer component, which is why people buy Overwatch, could have just stayed in Overwatch 1. But regardless, what you need to do if you want to start making whatever your player base is spend more money is release the game again and get them to pay for it again. So
that's definitely the main reason, for sure.
That's the reason you do it. You don't do it because you want to change systems, because you can fucking do that on the fly.
Because it's really weird, because then you get to a point where like...
Hold on.
How do you sell it? Like, how do you sell it? Like, how do you
look at? Okay, this is a weird example because obviously we had Destiny 1 and then they released Destiny 2. Okay,
yeah,
and they didn't necessarily need.
Well, which publisher released Destiny 2? The publisher, Activision,
exactly.
the publisher that forces people to put numbers on things.
However,
and what did Bungie do the second they weren't under the Activision banner?
Yeah, exactly. But like, so Destiny 2 is an example of adding different kinds of shit to your game that can stay in the same game. Right, Jamie? Like each season brings a bunch of different changes.
Yeah, the second Bungie went independent, they said we have no interest in making a Destiny 3 or a Destiny 4 because that's just not the way. There's no point.
Yeah. Yeah. You can still make money from these things. You can still change the systems. But as soon as you get like super greedy, and as soon as like Bobby Kotick says like I'm fucking hungry, put the fucking the wild boar with the fucking apple in its mouth on my table. Yeah, that means Overwatch 2. That means sequels, buddy.
But what I said like about free to play is if you're in the back, like if you're not producing another game but you're just doing updates, you're effectively making the game go free to play.
I'm not sure I understand that. You've said that multiple times now. Fundamentally, if you still have to pay for the experience up front, what makes it free to play? Because just because it's supported indefinitely and people might have paid for it so long ago that Activision have basically forgot about it and spent all that money or reallocated that money doesn't mean that it's a free to play game.
In the sense of
it's a game that's got supported for long. Like Rainbow Six Siege, if you bought that game once 6 years ago, you haven't paid for it again since, but it's not free to play.
But I think it gets weird in the sense of like you could go and buy an old, like if you could walk out down to CX or whatever, and you could buy an old version like of Overwatch years ago, and you can get it for like £5 or whatever because it's been out for so long and so many people have bought it and whatever. Then okay, not free to play, but it's going to cost you like barely anything to get access.
Yeah, sure.
So what I'm saying is it kind of gets to a weird prospect where you're saying they're basically making the game gets what's the thing where like the broom gets changed so much is it still the same broom?
Yeah.
Right? So you end up, what I mean by is you don't have a sequel per se, but you have an Overwatch which is not the same as the Overwatch that was sold like whenever it was it like 5 years ago or something? I can't remember. You don't have the same game. It's been updated and changed, and there's so many characters have been put into it. But I can still walk into a CEX, buy the original Overwatch for £5, put it in my system, and then run all the updates and blah 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 blah, and then I can end up with basically Overwatch 2. So what I'm saying is it's almost like it's free to play because they're not then saying
but
here's a sequel.
There's no difference to actual free to play games because you're always going to have those people that get to that free to play game. Like you'll have people logging into Fortnite, Dota, etc.
But then why not just make it, if they're going to do that, like why not, they could just make it free to play, or they could do a sequel and they could sell it and they could make money. I don't necessarily think it's that weird that they'd want to make it.
They could, but they don't, because they don't need to, because every now and then someone will still pay money for it. Like games like Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is functionally free to play, the early stuff, but like Siege has been free at times, but it's not free. GTA Online has been like has never become free. GTA Online is a hugely different beast to what it was when it released 8 years ago. Yeah, and it's like, but Rockstar are like, if we can still sell a copy of GTA 5 for £15 every now and then, which they still very regularly do, let's do it.
Yeah, but also it's like you're forgetting about all the other ways. So, like, okay, if you say let's not release Overwatch 2 and like charge people for that thing, but we still want to add in components that we can make money from, guess what? Overwatch becomes a launcher, right? Where all the multiplayer is still there, all the improvements to the multiplayer are still there, all the new characters coming out are still there, or maybe you charge for the new characters, or maybe you charge for a battle pass, or maybe you charge for a battle pass that includes the PvE that you're planning on making. What you don't need to do is say, well, we're going to stop working on Overwatch 1 for multiple years now because we're going to focus on Overwatch 2, when it's effectively just an update to a game that exists already.
Fair enough. I suppose I just find it odd because it's like you could make the argument about like, oh, they're making Diablo 4, but then they could just support Diablo 3 and they could just change Diablo 3 so much that it becomes Diablo 4, but they don't call it Diablo 4, they just call it Diablo 3.
You're not wrong.
They did
so
do that. But they supported Diablo 3 for like a decade.
This is what I'm saying. They could do with any game. It feels weird to levy a criticism at a company for making a sequel when you're saying, well, they could just change the game that they've got so much that it becomes its own sequel. And
I think it's just the type. I think it's the type of game that Overwatch 2 is. And when you look at the character redesigns, when you look at the new maps or the updated versions of the maps, when you look at the multiplayer fundamentals, you just look at it and you're like, this doesn't need this treatment. But there we go.
But Jonesy, I do see your point. Like, you could take a game like Diablo 3 and say, oh, well, Diablo 3 could be Diablo 4 just ported. Like, you're not wrong, but I think Jamie does have a point in saying it's the kind of game. Like, Diablo is very much a single-player experience or story-driven.
Right, yeah, that's fair.
Experience first. And yes, like, you could use my argument against me. We're saying, okay, so if they want to add in a new engine, that's that is possible to do, just kind of overhaul the game, etc.
I suppose the worst example would be a game, like a seasonal game like FIFA, or like any of the sports games, is where they do an annualized version, and you're like, well, you don't need to release another version. You could absolutely just add in some new elements to it.
Here's the perfect example of, from the same fucking stable, Activision. Okay,
It's always Activision.
It's always Activision. No, but if you think about it, so we've mentioned it before, but like Call of Duty Black Ops 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Where it was the clusterfuck where they didn't have a single player campaign. They only went multiplayer. Guess what, Jonesy? You had to pay for that game. And then the following time they come out, they're like, no, Warzone. Although the difference is they made it free to play. Right?
I think it gets weird is because there's been a crossover where it was always sequels, and then it's gone like free to play, and then it's gone games as a service and like support, and it's moving more and more towards games as a service support. I mean, we're going to touch on like blockchain games and things in another story. I think it just created this weird world where we assume like everything's moving that way. And when there are games like Overwatch 2 and you say, well, they don't need to release a sequel, it does seem odd when a company decides to make a sequel. But because we're in that transition where companies still do make sequels, I suppose what I'm saying is I don't find it that weird that they're choosing to do it. I get what you mean. Like it is weird in a game.
And I think the way that they're handling it as well is probably what makes it the most weird. Like they could have totally said Overwatch 2 is its own entity, that like there's no crossover, and we are adding, we're fundamentally changing a lot of things. But what they did instead was said, there's a new PvE component that's a single player thing, and that's fine. But the multiplayer, the stuff that it's not fundamentally changing drastically.
Because that would be like, they don't want to do that just in case.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even worse because they said like, oh, all the content that you're going to get in Overwatch 2 and the multiplayer, you can still have it on Overwatch 1.
And I get what you mean. It feels like they're doing it on purpose, just to get. It feels like they're giving you something you don't want, just to get an excuse to sell your product that you don't need, just so they can make more money. And the reason and the way they can do it is by creating like a slap and a number 2 on it and sticking on some PvE mode that no one's going to play.
I mean, the PvE mode might be cool, and maybe what they should have done is just said, don't call it Overwatch 2, just call it like Overwatch fucking the PvE archives and sell it like that,
right?
And then say multiplayer is still on Overwatch 1,
So
it's a separate like offshoot rather than an out-and-out sequel.
Do you think it would make more sense if rather than say like Overwatch 2, they made Overwatch go? If they actually just out and out said, do you know what, Overwatch is going free to play, and then they created a new way of like basically recreated Overwatch as a games as there's no disc version, whatever, you just download it and then you can get it becomes a hub, kind of like how they've done with Call of Duty, whereby there's all those different elements. You got the multiplayer, the single player, you got Warzone, and it becomes like a hub for people to access that world.
I mean, that's the Activision model. Like it is Activision. Like that's what they could totally do that. You launch into Overwatch, there's the free to play multiplayer component, and then it's like if you're in there now, it'll say like, oh, you can play Cold War. Or you can eventually it's going to say you can play Vanguard from this launcher. Click here and you'll buy it, you'll download it, and you'll unlock it. They could have done exactly that, and I don't know why they didn't, because it's the same.
Probably would have made more sense.
Same fucking company.
Okay, so unfortunately we have lost Jamie. There's been a global collapse of Discord, apparently, which we use to record these through. But
we're still here somehow.
Yeah, weird. I'm not really sure how we got away with it.
It's been kind of on Twitter that like people are struggling.
Oh, and look, just as we're getting back into it, the man himself reappears. You couldn't have timed that any better if you tried.
I can't believe this. We took a break and we're like, oh, what should we do? Oh, we'll just carry on without Jamie. It's all good. And cometh the man, cometh the hour, really.
Do you know what? I thought about leaving you boys to it, and I decided, like you said, Chris, every now and then someone has to take the hand they're dealt and play their cards right. And that's what I'm here to do. That was a bad expression, but yeah.
Well, I take back what I just said. Jamie is here, so we don't need to carry on with that.
Had you literally just talked about the fact that you just gone back into it and said he's not around?
Literally just said that.
Wow, that's spooky.
But we're here, so come on, big man, let's talk.
Should we talk about? I figured that if I'm back, we might as well move on to something riveting, something that interests everyone equally, and something that just gets everyone's blood pumping. So how about we talk about the blockchain?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's.
Okay, good, because I don't really know what the blockchain is. Jonesy tried to describe it to me earlier. I also don't know what NFTs are particularly, but I know that they are.
It's Lego, right? Like.
I think that's a good way of visualizing it. Yeah. So
hold on, because you said Jonesy tried to. I don't know what it is either. So this is someone who doesn't know what it is. Trying to describe it.
This is the secret. Nobody fucking knows. And even the people that say that they know, they don't fucking know. They're just making money out of it.
Yeah. And do you know who's top of the list of people that don't really know what the blockchain is or what NFTs are? It's the people that are trying to implement them in video games. And whilst a couple of companies put themselves in the running for that this week, top of the list was EA and their CEO, Andrew Wilson, who stated that he thinks that NFTs and blockchain-based video games are the future of the industry. But it's worth noting that he admitted he doesn't really know how that shit works. Which is, I'm paraphrasing, but he did kind of say something like that.
But he also, like, he always strikes me as like, oh, fucking hell, like, he always strikes me as like the devil, but like, not bear with me, like his look and his demeanor, especially when he's on stage and like say E3 or whatever, it's very much like that show Lucifer. It's like
great show,
like a sexy version of the devil. It's like, you know,
I missed out on my catch up. I finished Lucifer. I finished all of it. It had a lovely tie up at the end, so I missed out. But
there we go. He's the devil. But yeah, not like a bad way, like in a sexy way. He's a sexy devil. Whereas like, what was the other dude? Peter Moore. He was just like, he was just the devil.
He was kind of like your uncle.
No,
and also the devil.
He was like, well, I don't know what your uncle does to you, but he was
devilish things.
Yeah, he was like the Mr. Burns. Like he even kind of looked like Mr. Burns.
I think you're being harsh on him. I thought that he had a sense of humor about things. I don't know.
Maybe an evil sense of humor.
Yeah, like Lucifer sense of humor. I presume that's a character who spits out the odd one-liner, right?
He does.
He was more like Al Pacino in Devil's Advocate.
That's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
But that's how Peter Moore kind of strikes me. Whereas Andrew Wilson just kind of like, it seems more like, like Lucifer, sexy devil.
Yeah. Well, I think NFTs and blockchain based ideas seem appropriate for a Lucifer sort of devilish type thing. And while he admits that he doesn't really know, quote, how things are going to work, and we admit that we don't really understand them either, Jonesy has planted a couple of seeds of how these things might manifest themselves in video game form. So if I threw out a couple of feelers and you guys gave me your gut reaction, Jonesy, how would you feel about a rare gun skin that was also an NFT that could be traded for real money with other players and that you had ownership of, that you could track and verify yourself using the blockchain?
I'd bloody love it.
No, you wouldn't.
For me, it'd be completely pointless. Like, I don't really care. Like, I'm not into that sort of stuff, so.
But does this not seem like the most redundant thing ever?
I mean...
So what's going to happen? So, are they seriously saying that, like, there's only going to be one of this gun skin ever made?
No, not like that. It wouldn't, that's...
Is only one person going to be able to play as Ronaldo in FIFA?
I read up on it. Shall I give you a bit of the lowdown of what I think?
I mean, somebody's got to at this point, Jonesy.
So that and please, anyone in the chat, Steph, if you listen to this, like, let us know. Let me know how I'm getting it all wrong, because I'm probably going to completely.
Steph is our crypto king.
He is. But yeah, so the blockchain is like a ledger that all of the people who play that game, that blockchain game, will have, and they'll have access to. So everyone is tracking everything that goes on in the game all the time. So when someone, Chris, opens a crate in the game and they get a gun skin, a rare gun skin, it won't be the case that you on your system and some remote computer will know that you've got that skin and you will know you've got it. The blockchain and all the other players will know you've got it as well. And what that does is means that they can track where that gun skin is, who owns it, and then that gives you the ability, of course, to sell it, because then the blockchain can track where that gun skin was, who now owns it, which means that you can sell it. So you kind of commodify rare elements in games. So now you don't need to keep them in the game. You can effectively sell them outside of the game if they're an NFT token.
But Doesn't it
So
just,
you're
doesn't this-
commodifying assets in games for so that they have real world value. It sounds like a pretty terrible idea.
But isn't this just fucking like CS:GO skins? Like, doesn't this exist already?
I think it exists the CS:GO skin. I think is the closest to it. The difference with blockchain and the difference with NFTs that are backed by blockchain, like Ethereum and stuff like that, is everything is kosher because everything is tracked, and all the people who play the game and stuff have the blockchain, so no one can like forge a skin and hack stuff. You can't like hack in and steal it, if you know what I mean. You'd have to. It's just trackable, I suppose, which is the thing about blockchain and NFTs in general.
I think I get it, but I also just think it just makes zero sense, and it just seems kind of redundant.
Chris, maybe in that case,
okay, here it comes.
Could I throw you a different shaped boomerang at you?
Please do. I love boomerangs. All about that Aussie business.
There we go. I'm glad we're on the same page. Because I get it. NFTs, a bit of a minefield, and no matter how many breakdowns we get from Jonesy, sometimes it just won't cut it, won't cut the mustard. But what if I were to pitch to you the idea of a play-to-earn concept that would see you, the player, earn cryptocurrency for playing a game? And again, if I may paraphrase something Jonesy was saying to us beforehand, imagine you found yourself playing Dota 2, as you sometimes do, and maybe, owing to the fact that you were just playing Dota 2, and maybe even because you were performing well, you found yourself in the background earning a little bit of Dota coin on the side. And of course, that Dota coin, the cryptocurrency, has a real-world value attached to it. Surely that would pique your interest.
But again, isn't this something that's happening, fellas? You unlock skins in the game, as an example in Dota, you can unlock skins, etc. And there's a Steam market available where you can sell your skins. Like CSGO is still, even Team Fortress is still a thing because of fucking people selling skins and making real good money from it.
That's on the back of obviously Steam, but now imagine with this, if it's backed by a cryptocurrency, you could take that skin, that character, if it was an NFT, if it was like a non-fungible token, you could sell it to someone outside of the game, because that crypto, as long as you had that a wallet that could hold that currency. I'm not really sure how NFTs work with how you hold them if you just keep them in crypto wallets, but you could somebody could go out there, buy a whole load of Dota assets, NFTs and whatever, not even play Dota and have them.
Okay.
Then the value of Dota over the years goes up and up and up. The international takes off. Suddenly Dota coin is worth a fortune. And now that person holds a whole lot of assets which have now 1,000 times more valuable.
So being able to taking a fucking rare knife skin from CSGO and owning it outside of the game, that does kind of make a bit of sense to me. But when you tell me about Dota coin, or let's call it Counter-Strike cents, isn't the point of, unless it's like a shit coin, isn't the point of crypto to actually have a purpose behind it? And that's where the value gets derived from?
Well, yeah, I guess in this instance, the purpose is that you can use it in-game, right? I would imagine that it's like an in-game currency.
So you could use it in-game, but again,
but also not all cryptocurrency is valuable because it has a use, and a lot of cryptocurrency is valuable it's just purely speculative value, right?
Yeah, well, that's like shit coins,
right? Yeah, no one's going to buy their groceries with Shiba Inu coin or with Dogecoin, but they at various points have made people millions, if not billions, of dollars.
Hey, didn't Elon Musk at one point say you could use Dogecoin to buy Teslas?
Yeah, Elon boosting the value of Dogecoin related to Elon Musk tweets was a phenomenon at a time.
No, I think there's obviously the both. There's the ones that have a real use behind them, and then there are the ones that, like you say, have no use, but it's just trendy. It's just a fad. And I suppose the other element of this is what, from my reading, is that, let's say, Chris, that you did have your Dota coins and you were playing Dota, but Dota was not a very well known game. Then it would, and you had a shit ton of Dota coins. You may well then want to help Dota become a better game. So by getting involved with obviously not helping with development in that sense, but being part of making that game bigger, more played, more player based, like get it out there to your friends. You want more people to play it, so you might stream it, because the bigger the game gets, the more people want the currency, the more valuable the currency has, your value and your currency goes
you
up.
got a more stake in it. I think we can all agree that like any game based decisions that's kind of like propelled purely by profit is maybe not the best way about going about things. Like,
I think you just described all video game development.
you're not wrong. No, but you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's a very cynical take of like when microtransactions came out, and like you look at what happened with, like, let's say Battlefront 2, and it's like the way that they did it was purely greed based, and that was not good for the game, and it's not good for the industry. And it's kind of seems like this is like a different, this is the same thing but a different mask on it, in a way.
Yeah.
But maybe the reason they're pursuing it so much is because no one fucking knows what a fucking blockchain or an NFT is.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too, like, not cynical, I suppose, but I think like the play to earn, I think, is literally a way to trick people to play games more. So another way that apparently with a play to earn would work is if you do challenges, if you complete, dailies and weeklies and things in certain games, that they'll give you a little bit of the in-game currency, which has a real world value. So you're going to have people that think that if they play games loads and they really stick to one game and they really grind it and they do the challenges, that's actually going to give them real world currency. They're going to have money. They're not. 99.9% of the players are then just going to be playing a game that they've already spent money on. They're never going to cover their initial costs. It's not a pyramid scheme, but it's not exactly like on the up and up. No, it's trying to trick young people to play games.
Because you're right, Lynn, and we noticed it as content creators who worked with YouTube for almost a decade now. At some point, we realized that what we had to value, because in turn it was what YouTube valued, what YouTube pushes, that like volume of users that you can interact with is nice, but retention is the thing that makes money. And games, especially games as a service games over the years have realized that as well. It's like you can release an Assassin's Creed every 2 years if you make sure a higher percentage of the people that buy that one Assassin's Creed every 2 years, as opposed to the annualized ones, play it for twice as long, and that there is a positive correlation between the amount of time that's been playing it and the likelihood of them spending money on additional content to supplement their playtime.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't like it.
And that's why
Overwatch
2 is the right thing to do.
Overwatch 2 is going play to earn on the blockchain, and they're going to sell NFTs.
Can I put it this way? When you know it's a bad idea, okay? When EA, of all companies, saying it's the future of how we're going to develop games in the future of the industry, because they're looking at it from a purely financial point of view, obviously, because they're EA. But then you've also got Ubisoft saying the same thing.
Yes, Ubisoft.
All you need for the fucking the triad is to have Activision Blizzard kind of jump on the fucking bandwagon as well, and they probably would have if they didn't have all of this shit going on in their backyard.
Now would be a bad time to clarify their positions on NFTs and the blockchain. I guess the only company, I mean, Epic sort of like voted sort of in support of all of this stuff, or at least an interest in exploring it, but they arguably only did so as a direct response to Valve and Steam, who last month banned blockchain, crypto, and NFT games from their storefront and from their platform, which is a big blocker on the way that publishers are going to jump that hurdle.
But does that mean that you're not going to get any? You're not going to be able to buy Ubisoft games on Steam if they like.
Well, I mean, some cases you already can't. Far Cry 6, for example, is not on Steam.
But let's like look at what they're actually, or what I think they're actually they might be trying to do here, right? If you're Ubisoft and you want people to use Ubibucks, right? Because they already have like reward schemes and other stuff.
Yeah,
they're gonna hold on to, let's say they issue 100 Ubibucks when a new, in total, and every time a game comes out, you get a couple, like 0.001 every time you do a challenge. They're holding on to 50 of them, so they've got 50%. They're hoping that game goes big, so that they're holding 50. They've just created a market in a cryptocurrency that people now trade in, and they're holding half of it. So then they've just made a shitload more money through their game because of the popularity of it. It's just a way for them to try and like make. They're just hedging their bets in order to say, well, if one of our games goes stellar, we want to make a shitload more money off of it. This is just like profiteering on like weird ways around video games. I don't think it's good at all. I don't think they should be getting into it.
Or I feel like I'm turning into Jonesy here, playing fucking devil's advocate. Or does it not actually fucking matter? Do you know what I mean? Like,
right. It probably doesn't. Yeah, you're probably right.
If I'm saying that, like, hey, fucking CSGO has been doing this for years, where they've created a market around like skins and stuff, and people are very happy to kind of accept that. And this is just a different way of going about it. Like the thing with microtransactions was it was a different thing. It was a shift. You could say even with like battle passes, it's a different way of monetizing things, and it can either be done right or it could be done badly. Like microtransactions can be done well, or they can be done poorly. Battle passes can be done well, or they can be done really like Marvel's Avengers bad, right? Is this just saying like, no, it's the same thing that you're used to. It's just the technology behind it is different now, and it's still fucking optional. But I guess it does change the mindset of how they look at monetization, in which case that is what happened. I'm going around in circles here, but I don't know.
Can I if I had to pick like a way in which I could see it going badly? Because in some sense I agree with you. I think if they're creating mini markets for mini cryptos inside of their own games, and then no one really doesn't take off, and they're giving them to people and they're the in-game currency, it kind of doesn't matter. There's a couple of things that would annoy me. For example, if they said you can only do in-game purchases with our crypto, therefore you have to have a wallet that can change your real cash into our crypto, because then they're kind of forcing you to use it, which would annoy me.
But then, sorry, no.
Go on, mate.
I was going to say, it would also be funny the first time that dramatically backfired on a publisher, where they sold in-game items, for example, in return for a cryptocurrency that they had created and allowed to trade. But they would, once it's on the free market, they would have no control over the actual value of the coin itself. So then would publishers ever end up in a situation where they essentially lost control of the value of their own currency, and then the real world value of their DLC became like pennies in real term, because the value of their cryptocurrency became so much higher than they ever could have imagined, and all the players had it.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Like, the new Assassin's Creed DLC is actually 0.0004p or 1 Ubi coin.
They've lost a load of money on it. They've just lost a fortune.
Because I'm starting to see the perils here, because if the flip side of that is the fucking coin takes off, does that mean then that your DLC for fucking Far Cry 8 is going to cost you like 5 Ubi bucks, which is now valued at fucking £5,000 or something? Like,
that's. I'd imagine you almost can't sell DLC for cryptocurrency for that reason.
Yeah, well, you'd imagine it would have to have a real world tracking price, right?
But then,
have to have
but even then, like
crypto
bro,
price.
what is the one cautionary tale everyone knows about Bitcoin? It's the guy who bought the Papa John's for like $17 million. No one's gonna I don't think people are gonna buy microtransactions for cryptocurrency for that. I think there's too many cautionary tales out there.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. The one thing that immediately jumped out, Chris, when you said about like what would happen is that I suddenly thought. So, for example, I really wanted to buy the DeLorean in Rocket League because I'm really sad and I'm a nerd. And I like stuff like that. If now, they changed the way they operated those sorts of skins, right, and they became rare items rather than selling them in a shop, right? They became rare items that became desirable, and they were NFTs that could be traded outside of the game. There's a chance that someone buys up all the DeLoreans for Rocket League who doesn't even play Rocket League, and now if you want to get one, you have to pay the going rate that they've decided. And if everyone wants one and they're really super rare,
but again,
you have to pay.
Isn't that just the fucking markets that exist already in some of these games?
No, because at the moment, like they don't have. There's not like some dodgy third party profiteering off the fact that people want something. Like they sell stuff in games for a price normally, and I don't think.
No, but like what I'm saying is like on CS:GO, you could open up a chest.
CS:GO is very limited. It's a very limited, and there are only skins like as well, but it's a very limited.
Right, okay,
scope.
but
it's just CS:GO. Imagine it's every game. Imagine how it's every game.
Okay, but hold on. Let's say CS:GO as a DeLorean skin for a fucking knife. Stupid, I know, but let's say it, okay? To relate it to your thing. You want a DeLorean thing. CSGO has a DeLorean thing. Let's say in its current situation, you'd open up a chest. If you were lucky enough, you'd get the DeLorean skin for your knife. And then because they are so limited in number, you can then go to the Steam marketplace and there is a dictated price of saying, hey, this is worth fucking $5,000.
The difference for me is that is still operating like inside of Steam, inside of like the CSGO marketplace. If you Jeff Bezos now bought all of the skins for CSGO, doesn't play CSGO, holds them all as NFTs completely separately, and you have to go to him and buy them. Again, he's so bloody rich. He's got billions and billions. He does that with loads of games. That's the point at which
I think like because we keep going back to like the CSGO example and the Steam marketplace, but like that's one of the only like
not many games have that.
As soon as you make that about FIFA and rare FIFA cards, there is all of a sudden, without breaking their terms of service, no way to extract real world value from a FIFA card, in spite of the fact that you might have used real world currency to inadvertently acquire it through luck-based packs.
If you're taking, I feel like I'm being an idiot here, and I'm in school again, and I'm asking the teacher all these fucking questions and being annoying. But you know, miss, if they do that, then okay, they already got all these kind of like issues with being classified as like say gambling, and they need to disclose the odds. And I think the only way that they're able to get away with it is saying like, no, but it's in the game. It's never out of the game, and there's no real world value, as you say. But as soon as you say it can be taken out as an NFT, then all of a sudden they need to get rid of loot boxes entirely.
That's an interesting thing, potentially. Yes, if like you're all of a sudden able to extract real world value from FIFA cards, because every card could potentially be an NFT that would have value on the blockchain, then maybe that does like reopen the. But then again, you've got to remember you can't take them out of the ecosystem at the moment, and lots of countries, especially in Europe, already consider it gambling. So I think that's a fight that EA will have to take up, whether they want to or not at some point.
What's weird is I almost think that what they'd have to do is they'd have to take away the probability aspect of it. So like the CSGO idea is, there's a 0.01% chance of getting that knife skin. Maybe they would have to say there are 10,000 of this skin available total.
And that's it,
And that's it. We can't have a probability attached to it, because then if we artificially adjust the probability, then we've just changed the value of your NFT, which maybe would be, illegal. So they say, no, there is 10,000. That's how many of the tokens we've issued. But then you get to a horrible position where, like, let's say you play Overwatch and you really want a Reinhardt skin of a certain type, and someone on the outside has bought all 10,000 of those Reinhardt skins, and they and like the whole diamond thing and like Blood Diamond, they artificially create scarcity to bump up the price. So then you really want like this paladin.
That already happens skin in FIFA, by the way. Is like people will like save up enough money to buy tens or hundreds of the same card of the same player and dictate their value from there.
So but this sounds terrible. Like most people aren't going to make any money from play to earn. They don't care about NFTs. They don't care about like blockchain stuff outside of having a couple of. Do
you know what this sounds like to me? Like, you got to remember the way that we're hearing all of these things are in earnings calls with investors. And we know what investors are like. We know what and guarantee, whether they want to or not, they would have fielded questions about NFTs, about the blockchain, about crypto, because every single investor in the world right now is probably calling up the people running whatever company they're a part of, whatever industry they're in, and saying, what's our plan for crypto? Why are they asking that question? Because millions of dollars are being made, and none of them are being made by them at the moment. And they want to know how. And Andrew,
you are so right.
And Andrew Wilson just had to give an answer.
Yeah, that's what happened with us at ATG when we kept on being asked like, what can you do with esports?
What can you do with esports?
Like, there's big money in esports. What can you do with esports?
Yeah. Everyone's like, making. I'm going to say a quote right now, and you guys are going to know whom to. If I said everyone's making money, where's my money? All three of us know who said that quote, because that's the way that money people think.
Yeah,
that's funny, man. I think I'm come down with Chris. I'm relieved in the fact that it's not going to happen. Most people aren't going to give a shit, and it's not really going to make any. It's going to have any impact.
Yeah.
Or
He's
the
right.
So you reckon that they'll put in these fucking things and no one's going to give a shit and it's not going to work out for them and they're just going to.
You'll have there'll be some weird game which just goes like takes off and it basically becomes another Doge where some people made millions from getting a few coins, but it'll be a real like rare event and no one will really.
But you're also going to have what the cryptocurrency world dealt with this week, which is with situations like Squid Game coin, which is that because the currencies are tied to the games and the games are tied to the developers who are the ones who are seeking to profit from the whole process. It's why they're going down that route. As much as they might want to make it seem like it's in the interest of the consumer or the player, it's not at the end of the day. Like, there can be a conflict of interests in being like the sole creator and the provider of a coin that you are also like the only person who would like that. You look at like, I don't know, like
that is weird.
Crypto. The problem with crypto at the moment is a lot of it is unregulated. Scams are a thing. Rug pulls are a thing, and people lose their life savings while other people get out with millions. And it's like, I'm not suggesting that Ubisoft or EA are going to do things that are straight up illegal, but if they're going to make money out of us, they will do because that's what they already do.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
And like on that note, actually, on making money out of people, a small update. I have followed up my communications with both Coinbase and Binance, and we have yet to reach an impasse on the name SS Coin. I'm not sure what the holdup is or why they're not going for it. I'm trying really hard to push through, but I'm hoping we'll be trading by the end of the week.
Yeah.
We have generated 57 quadrillion coins. Which means that if we reach a value of 1 cent, we're going to have a market capitalization that is 100,000 times the GDP of the United States of America. I presume that's not going to be a problem, but we'll have to wait. It's a waiting game. All I'm going to say is, buy now, diamond hands, folks. Diamond hands.
A mate of mine, he was when all the NFTs were kicking off, he was like, "Mate, we should make some NFTs and sell them." I was like, "What NFTs are we going to make?" He's like, "We could just make little pictures of characters." I'm like, "No one wants our shitty digital art." Like,
you say that though, but there was that fucking story of that like fucking, I don't know, 12-year-old kid in Britain who made like pictures of whales. I think he called them like cool whales or something, and he's fucking made.
But that's I feel like the same argument has existed. Like,
totally. It's opportunity, and it's always that like 0.01% that they're just lucky
but it's also,
at the time.
It's also the element of every single person has been in the pub at some point, had a few beers, and goes, "I can't believe that Damien Hirst just takes a shit on a canvas and sells it for 10 million. I could make fucking modern art. I'd unwire a coat hanger. There you go, fucking modern art. Where's my millions?" It's the same shit. Like, you don't.
It is the same. And then of course they're like, "Well, why didn't I make any money?" It's like, because you, by the time you'd heard about it, every twat in the
exactly.
literally.
I said.
Oh, it's literally me and Jonesy. Like, honest to God, like
no. We actually would have made money. Like, we are not the same as that, because if we'd have actually put 100 quid in when we said we're going to put 100 quid in, I'd have 17 grand right now.
Yeah, because it was like 5 years ago now or whatever.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah,
but the point is, I think what Jamie is saying, it's much like what happened with lockdown, right? Where it's like all of a sudden people had all this time, and all of a sudden there's no excuse for them to say, well, you know, you could have written your screenplay, but no one fucking did. Well, very few people did. Some people did, and they capitalized on it.
Yeah.
But majority of people, like when it comes to, it's like, oh, you can do it, but you don't fucking do it. Yeah. Like, we could have bought Bitcoin back in the day, but we didn't. And then when there was another fucking jump in Bitcoin, like, we could have bought then, but we didn't. You know, and it just kept going up and up and up, and we just didn't, because human apathy is the biggest driving force in the world.
I've got an idea, right?
Or the lack of driving force.
We're going to subvert the form. We'll buy some actual £5 coins, right? You know, the big coins, and we'll paint our logo on the coins, and then those will be our NFTs, because they are non-fungible, because they are minted in the UK, and you can tell that they're real £5 coins, and they'll have our special art on them.
And there will be limited number. So get in now.
Although you could just copy them, I guess. You could just copy the picture, I suppose.
Nah, mate.
So they're not even non-fungible. They're just shitty pictures on £5 coins.
I get a headache with this kind of shit, man.
Do you know what?
Me too.
How about I settle this for everyone?
Hmm.
Get on the phone to your wife or your husband or your significant other. Sit the family around the fireplace. Scramble together everything you can. All the all the money that you can find, like everything that's fallen down the cracks of the sofa, all your life savings, the shit your parents left you, and head over to patreon.com/SuperShow. That is where
we're launching a NFT series of Jamie's balls. They come in different shapes and sizes.
Just Jamie holding different sports balls. I'd love that.
I mean, if there's money to be made, if there's grass on the pitch, let's play.
He's
ball.
got a basketball.
Wow.
He's got a rugby ball.
No,
he's got some tennis balls.
Yeah.
He's got a bowling ball.
I think I understood the joke after the second one, but thank you.
I'm just imagining all the different tokens we could make. He's got a netball.
What have we started? Yeah. What have we started?
Hold dangling two little badminton balls.
Art. Let's make it happen. Anyone out there, if you're an artist and you can make good art, please draw us some pictures of Jamie holding different sports balls, and we will make them into NFTs, and then we will sell them.
We'll also make them. Oh, I've got it. We take 12 of those pictures. We put them in a calendar. We mint that calendar on the fucking blockchain, and that's the world's first NFT calendar. And then, even better, when it comes to December next year, we'll do the world's first NFT advent calendar.
I like it.
Cogs turn.
I think that's the end of the podcast.
That's why I get paid the big bucks. Okay?
Chris, I think we're ending the podcast. Okay.
I think that's probably for the best, man. I'm getting delirious here.
I wonder why. A huge shout out to everyone who's made it thus far. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Remember, if you're on YouTube, you can like the video, you can subscribe to the channel, you can leave a comment in the comment section down below, and we may well pick it as our comment of the week on next week's episode. You can join in the conversation either there or on Twitter. That handle is @SuperShowPod. You can listen to us on podcasting platforms. You can tune in on Paisley Radio on Thursdays if you ever miss it. It's played again on Mondays. And remember as well that we are supported by our lovely patrons over on patreon.com/SuperShow. You can head over there and help keep this train on the tracks, should you desire. Boys, thank you so much for your wonderful commentary, your hot takes, your trash opinions, and even your good opinions too. There were a couple scattered in there. Give yourself a pat on the back. You've earned it. Thank you, everyone, for watching and or listening, and we will see you. Oh, wait, code word. I almost forgot. I always forget code words. What have we said?
Surely it's got to be like something like SS Coin or Jamie's ball. Like how much people
What about that's why I earn the big bucks?
What is it?
That's what Chris said right there.
I mean,
you know what, Jonesy?
I've said lots of shit.
Jamie holding balls.
Jamie's ball.
Just come up with a name for a Super Show themed cryptocurrency.
I like it. That's the one.
I like that.
Yeah, something like that. Keep
but
it
not
current.
SS Coin, because that's been minted.
Yeah, and also I do have this worry in the back of my mind that YouTube does monitor comment sections, and if there are like too many SSs, then. But then it probably monitors this as well. It goes through the audio. It's like these guys are scum.
So true.
Which is probably why with like
scum coin
50% the views that we had about like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So.
But 50% of something is still something. You're a part of that 50%. That's why we love you, and that's why hopefully we'll see you on the next week. And if not, 40%. Bye.
Hey, each view is a fungible token. See ya.